Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are listening to this digital health symposium in the world today. Welcome to HITLAB's final digital health symposium for the year 2024. My name is Jerry Antimano. I'm the Senior Manager for Community Development at HITLAB. And today's jam-packed schedule is all about pink pixels of empowerment and navigating digital health, human rights, and breast cancer awareness, it being Breast Cancer Awareness Month for October. We have a really packed schedule, as I mentioned, full of some amazing speakers, both you may have seen before that are familiar to the HITLAB programming, as well as some new faces as well. And they're all going to be talking about the human rights and breast cancer awareness and digital health elements that all go into making sure that HITLAB is bringing you programming that is focused on digital health equity through evidence generation and making sure that the entire population of the globe is getting the healthcare delivered in a really effective way through technology. It is Halloween. Those of you who are observing this year, hope you have a happy and safe one. And we have a special October 31st full special savings offer on right now. It started at midnight last night and will end at midnight tonight. No cliches there for Halloween, but it's going to be 31% off site wide. So it's going to be a 31% discount on all the summit tickets that are out there right now, and also any of the other memberships that we have available too. But do make sure that if you are interested in joining any of the initiatives or attending the summit at the end of this year, to check that out. You won't need a code. You just need to go right in and apply for the ticket or a membership that you want, and the discount will be automatically applied. So do check that out now. But as I said, we have a really full schedule and agenda for today. And starting us off is going to be Dr. Kamal Bajaj from one of the nation's largest municipal health systems. Dr. Bajaj, thanks so much for joining us today. And we're all looking forward to your 10-15-minute presentation around the innovations that advance breast health, which is going to be really appropriate to kick us off today. But Kamal, over to you.
Thanks so much, Jerry, and a really hearty hello to the HITLAB community. It's great to be with all of you. Jerry, I just want to confirm that you can see my screen.
Not yet, Kamal. You might want to try resharing it again.
No problem. We'll go ahead and do that again. Jerry, as you mentioned, it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, the month of October, which in a lot of places across the globe generate a lot of important conversations around breast health. How about now, Jerry?
Yeah, we can see your screen just great.
Great. And so my perspective on thinking about technology innovations that advance breast health really come from my experience as a professor of OBGYN and a chief quality officer who's really thinking about high quality, planet friendly care. And so, we hear numbers, and it's important to acknowledge that numbers tell a story. And so I want to share some numbers with you. And these numbers primarily come from the United States, but are really sort of broadly applicable in a variety of settings. The first is that 1 in 8 women will develop breast cancer in their lifetime, 13% of the population. And that's really shocking, right? There are many, many people on this call today. Certainly someone in your lives will be affected by this condition, unfortunately. A recent study in The Lancet suggested that 2 of 8 are preventable through education and risk factor mitigation. Let's not forget the men in the audience. 1 in 700-ish will develop breast cancer in their lifetime. I think this is a number and a condition that really hasn't been discussed as much as it should be, certainly as it relates to men's health. 85% of women who are diagnosed with breast cancer have no family history. And I think it's really important as people are thinking about solutions to address breast cancer or breast health, they really think about that the vast majority have no family history. 50% of new diagnoses are in women 62 years or younger, and 9% are under age 45. acknowledging the important role that structural racism and injustice unfortunately play in healthcare. Black women have the lowest 5-year relative breast cancer survival rate. I strongly believe that technology can help close the gap. And so, just as a reminder, as of April of 2024, the US Preventative Services Task Force suggested that for all average risk women, screening should occur every other year, starting at age 40 and continuing through age 74. This is a change from recommendations in the past where screening was, depending on risk factors, suggested at around age 40, but really started at age 50. So recognizing, that early screening, early intervention saves lives, these are new recommendations. So I want to tell you a story about Deirdre. Deirdre is a fictitious patient, but really represents an amalgam of patients that I've seen over the years. So Deirdre is 47 years old, came in for a routine checkup, and talking about her health, because of the pandemic, hadn't come in for a few years. And we started talking about breast health and talking about the recommendation to have a mammogram. And what she said was, well, you know what, I'm young, I don't have a family history. And I was talking with one of my friends, and when you're young, the screening isn't as effective, and so I just don't think it's for me. And so we really got to sort of chatting about this, and I said, that friend that you've been talking to, would you be comfortable getting them on the phone and so we could talk about this together? He said, absolutely, that's one of my best friends, I'd be happy to talk about this. So we got on the phone and we started talking about the numbers that I shared with you, the fact that diet and exercise, a healthy weight can help contribute to breast health. And she and her friend both realized that, wow, getting a mammogram can save my life. And just because I don't have a family history or because I'm young, it doesn't mean that I'm not at risk. And so this, really typifies the importance of solutions that are patient-centered, easily accessible, and trustworthy. So I'd like to spotlight a few areas of real sort of promise, some with really significant impact that we're seeing already as it relates to breast health. And then I want to share a little bit about just my thoughts on some areas that I'd like to see innovation in the future. So the first is this concept of personalized care to mitigate risks. And I want to spotlight, amongst other things, genetic testing and wearables. Certainly, as our ability to perform sequencing and more comprehensively analyze what the results are, we're able to identify high-risk individuals, guiding preventative and screening strategies. This has really come a long way in the last, certainly, decade, and even in the last few years. Wearables allow us to really, work with patients where they're at as it relates to mitigating factors for breast cancer risk. And patient empowerment through digital health tools, right? Self-management of modifiable risk factors. Starting to see a lot of really great solutions that help promote, healthy breast health. As it relates to screening and diagnosis, before it was, well, let's take a family history, let's, talk about your risk factors, but really now being able to incorporate disparate sources of data, whether it's genetic data, lifestyle, where someone lives, allows for more tailored screening. And certainly we've seen a lot of uptake in solutions that promote better imaging, right? Algorithms that really improve accuracy and reduce false positives, addressing things like dense breasts. And so, I really look at this as an area of promise. The challenge with that is that people have to get to the mammography, right? And so there's a whole host of, sort of opportunity in building trust to so that people get to mammography. As it relates to access, speaking of getting somewhere, right? Telehealth consults allow for sort of more widespread access, right? Really locally and across the globe. Liquid biopsies or blood-based testing for circulating cell-free DNA enables early detection and monitoring of cancer recurrence. I also am really heartened to see some of the wonderful solutions related to linking patients to trials, right? It used to be where individuals would have to, Google search, look at different databases on their own to try to figure out, how to sort of link to trials. And certainly some of the solutions that are out there really help make this a lot easier. I really like the idea of, patient centeredness and patient empowerment, and, self-exam apps, augmented reality training really help bring to life, the importance, and also, how to perform these self-exams thoroughly. And certainly, the comfort of being able to do this in your, in your own environment is really, really heartening to see. And the last that I think is, really interesting to think about is precision medicine and communication. This idea of taking, all the tools that we have to discover new treatment areas and tailor treatments for specific cancer types. Also the ability to answer questions at any time. Certainly chatbots and AI assistants are able to do this in a variety of applications, including related to breast health. And then certainly, in working with public health colleagues, the ability again to link lots of different sources of data can help, further hone a strategy for breast cancer education and screening. So, some of the innovations that, I'm not saying there's nothing that exists that does this, but some of the innovations that I'll be looking for really as, a chief quality officer and women's health professional are solutions that promote trust. So solutions that, are easy to navigate, have, broad representation in the images and ways and modalities in which they are presenting information, I think is really important. Because remember, we have to sort of have people come for screening. And there's a lot of sort of steps and layers before that happens. As we move forward, we have more real personalized therapies, solutions that navigate beyond the initial diagnosis, right? There's a lot about what breast cancer is, the treatments, what are the stages, what are the, sort of general approaches that are out there, but something that really is tailored. I think there's some opportunities there. I like the idea of collectively engaging patients and caregivers. We've done a lot in our health system, to really think about a collective unit. And so, solutions that allow individuals to engage in care together in whatever way seems right for them is really useful. And certainly, the diagnostic journey for people can often be very challenging. And yet people are having different tests for different things all the time. And so, mammography is clearly a very important, way of screening individuals. But how can alternate imaging modalities be used? For example, if someone's having a chest CT for something else, or another kind of test, how can we begin to sort of merge those worlds so that if someone is having something for someone else, that we're able to ascertain this information at the same time? And I really hope that there comes a time where we don't need Breast Cancer Awareness Month, right? Because we've made so much progress in awareness, understanding, screening, and treatment that it just becomes the fabric of what we do, right? But when it comes to really thinking about breast health, it's going to take all of us. And I feel, very confident that some of the technology solutions that are out there and are being developed will hopefully make that a reality. And so look forward to keeping the conversation going. A very happy, Breast Cancer Awareness Month to all of you. Happy to connect on LinkedIn. There are so many perspectives on this call, and there's a lot that we can do together. Back to you, Jerry.
No, that's wonderful, Kamal. Thanks so much for coming on the program. It's always a delight to have you on and share your insights with the group. So we really appreciate it, and hopefully see you soon back on the program again.
Thanks, Jerry.
No, that's wonderful. And Kamal, of course, there's some questions in the chat, so feel free to stick around if you have time to address them in the chat. I think we have a few questions in there about breast cancer and innovations and stuff. So So if you do have questions, folks, for any of the speakers, please feel free to use the Q&A box or the chat. We will invite all the speakers to stay on after their segments to answer them via the chat as the other speakers come on. And of course, we'd always welcome everybody on the program, whether you're attending or whether you're speaking, to put your LinkedIn details and contact details in the chat should you wish to connect with the rest of the audience or with the other speakers. Speaking about innovations, as Kamal just did, we do have our deadline coming up for our last, or one of our last challenges of the year, sponsored by Versely, one of the products coming out of Kenvue, one of the subsidiaries of Johnson & Johnson. They are kindly sponsoring this specific challenge around menopause. So if you do have a solution that is addressing or has an application to menopause, please do apply. The link is here on the screen and the team has put it in the chat as well. You do have a chance to win around $25,000 and upwards if you do come in the top places at that pitch competition. So please do apply as soon as possible if you do have a solution that is addressing menopause. It's such a great opportunity for our startups to be able to do that. And if you didn't catch the Women's Health Tech Challenge that we had a couple of weeks ago, it is on our YouTube channel as well. So do check that out. On the topic of women's health, we do have a interview coming up right now with one of the leading global women's health tech organizations in the form of Organon, and having one of our prominent board members of the Breakthrough Alliance and soon to be Breakthrough Alliance Europe, where we're going to be hosting an event in Paris. So do keep an eye out for that. I'm going to invite Laurent Van Leberg from Ballas Invest to interview Sama Rogab from Organon. So Laurent, over to you.
Yes, hello, Jerry. I mean, it's great to join here, and I think we have a very interesting, very important topic. And Sama is fantastic to have you. I think obviously very relevant for the topic, but combining Organon and your knowledge with being in the Middle East, with a view also on Africa, which we know is very innovative on digital health. I mean, it's absolutely great.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Laura.
And I mean, to get started, obviously with your multiple eyes beyond Organon, you also founded a few groups, like STEM Up. I mean, we are very curious to hear about how you see AI actually being used in breast cancer treatment, prevention, and care.
Okay. Thank you so much, first, for the invitation. It's always a pleasure to be with HITLAB and the Digital Health Symposium. I don't want to repeat maybe the presentation of your first guest, but as you know, the breast cancer has been of interest since the old days of AI, and applied to problems including differential diagnosis, grading, prognosis, and management. Also, it's a very important use case in the new era of AI and the large language models and deep learning. So as the first speaker actually introduced the great presentation about how it's used in breast cancer risk calculation, clinical decision support, management, planning, and the translation of genomics into precision medicine. Actually, there are still, a big debate about the accuracy, but the most recent studies I read suggested that it's now started to reach very high percentages, like above 90%, reaches 96% in some image processing solutions. So it's reshaping the landscape of breast cancer care.
And Sama, from these different technologies or maybe companies that you see, I mean, which one do you see as being maybe the making the most difference, or where you have seen the biggest progress in the last, 2-3 years, recent past?
Actually, as per my understanding and from the literature I read, it suggests that it's image processing and diagnosis thing. But also here we can see that it's not only reshaping the diagnosis and the decision support systems, but also we can see that it helps a lot in personalization and it assisting patients in also improving the overall quality of healthcare delivery. So it has multiple roles and crucial roles now in every part in the treatment and the breast cancer journey. I actually can see progress in everywhere, and it's really evolving and in a very fast pace we haven't seen before.
And then with these, among these progress, what do you see being the biggest challenge? Maybe also with a bit of a zoom on regulatory and ethical challenge.
Yeah, of course. As you know, the integration of AI in healthcare, while really promising and brings about substantial progress, but also it is bringing about significant challenges to ethics, regulatory framework, legalities, and it's really an imperative need to deal with these challenges to ensure the patient safety, privacy, compliance with the existing healthcare standards. So one of these challenges could be, as I mentioned, about the accuracy. Sometimes the AI solutions introduction focus heavily on accuracy, and it's actually not heavily demonstrate the outcome, to measure the effects on the outcome. So this focus on comparative accuracy, meaning the AI versus the clinician, sometimes it hinder the importance of the outcome, the non-patient the patient-related outcomes. It's really important, and as your speaker also highlighted about how the new solutions is trying to reduce the false positive results that is coming from compromising the outcome while focusing on the and measuring on the accuracy during the clinical trials. Also, one of the important challenges that we see is bias, a significant and well-observed problem for machine learning and AI is bias in the outcome. So this of course arises from training data or design, the bias in training data or the bias in design choices. So as we know, also this could exaggerate the problem of equity because it's well recognized that healthcare and evidence-based medicine are really biased against the disadvantaged groups and vulnerable groups. So these groups are underrepresented in the evidence-based data. So this could also exaggerate the bias and may introduce another risk on equity also. So ethical AI development program should be strongly focused on reduces such kind of biases as well. Also provide, yeah.
Please.
Yeah. Another challenges like transferability, like data privacy, like of course data security, especially when it comes to cancer data and the wide sharing of biodata. It also introduces some ethical and legal risks.
And building on that, I mean, when you look at the future from your personal angle or company angle, I mean, what are the key areas where you'd love to see progress, and maybe where do you see some solutions, coming up that could address them?
Yeah, of course, the solutions is about strengthening the measures that help to ensure the decreasing these kind of risks. For example, to implement in research only settings, so it will allow for a continuous evaluation, monitoring, creating the required evidence on the outcome, the performance, the monitoring the algorithms all the time. Also to mandate bias mitigation and explainability, adequate regulatory legal governance. Also, one important thing is the public awareness and engagement of public before and during implementation. One of the most important actually resource I saw in how to ensure ethical implementation of AI is the recent WHO initiative introduced in June 2021 to set a comprehensive set of indications, recommendations, guidelines about how to develop the AI solutions to protect the main ethical principles are how to protect the autonomy of the human over the machine, to make sure that there is someone held accountable for any risk of errors of wrong decisions or any harm that could result. Also, how it should strictly follow the regulatory standards and ensure safety, accuracy, effectiveness, not only focusing on efficacy, to pay attention to transferability and because the algorithm that is fitting in one context or one setting could be could be not the same in another context. Also, to maintain the data privacy standards, the transparency and availability of all the documents and all the available information behind the design of this AI technology is also crucial to hold these solutions accountable and binded by the laws and regulations.
And this is obviously the last day of the month, on the October month, on this focusing on this topic. I mean, I wonder if you have one last word to share with the group here, maybe a call for action or something you'd like all of us to hear from you.
Maybe the one thing I would call for action of maybe all the ecosystem, the regulators, the industry, to be as agile as possible to introduce such effective regulatory and ethical framework, because we really need to follow the fast pace of this evolving technologies. while not hindering the benefits that can come to the patient from these new technologies.
It's great. Thanks a lot, Samar, for the discussion. And everybody here, please don't hesitate to connect on LinkedIn to continue the discussion. Jerry, back to you.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you so much, Summer and Laurent, for joining us. We appreciate that you guys are on the other side of the Atlantic. So thanks so much for giving up your time to come on in the later part of the day and share some really wonderful insights. It's always a pleasure to have you on the program. So before we get on to our next speaker, I just want to remind everybody that we are having a special 31st of October offer on today. That's off the Summit passes as well as the Breakthrough Alliance Fellow memberships as well. So no code needed. You can go to the QR code or simply visit the website and the link that's put in the chat by the team and enjoy a special 31% discount off any of the memberships or passes to our events and initiatives right now. So please do check that out. Moving on with our program, again, we have a very packed agenda for today, and it's my pleasure to invite Dr. Mitzi Krokover, who's the host of Beyond the Paper Gown podcast, a really fantastic podcast where she's able to interview a wide range of folks that are really advocating for women's health and for women to keep themselves healthy and stay healthy in today's world. Mitzi, thanks so much for coming onto the program, and thanks so much for your support also to the Women's Health Tech Challenge. Again, if you missed the Women's Health Tech Challenge 2 Fridays ago, Mitzi was on there awarding one of our finalists a prize to be on her podcast. And I think the podcast details are also in the chat. But Mitzi, over to you and your presentation for today.
Thanks so much, Jerry. Really appreciate it. It's so great to be here. I'm going to try to share my screen and, well, let me do that again. Okay. 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 Can you see that?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay, perfect. So, hi, I'm Mitzi Krokover. Just to give you an idea about some of the hats that I wear and the perspective that I am providing. I am an internist by training and previous practice. I was the founding medical director of the Iris Cantor UCLA Women's Health Center, and then went to Humana as vice president of women's health. And in the last 5 years, was really impressed by the women, mostly women, who were frustrated not being able to find solutions for their health care in the health system or on the market or shelves. So they were basically creating companies to create those solutions. So to me, that was the light bulb that says, that's how we're going to advance women's health. So I wanted to invest in it. I am a managing director of Golden Seeds, which is an angel investment organization focused on women-led companies, and I co-lead the health sector. And then, as you heard, I'm also the host of the Beyond the Paper Gown podcast, which looks at all the factors that impact on our health and healthcare, including obviously our chromosomes and genomics, but also those external factors. One being innovation. I was finding that a lot of people didn't know, either their physicians or them, didn't know about these great innovations. And so I wanted to highlight some of them.
Mitzi?
So, yes.
Sorry, I think you need to expand your screen because it's still stuck on the first page.
Okay, I haven't gone. There we go. Is that okay? Did you see that?
No, it's still on the Canva page. It's
saying stop share. It says my screen sharing is paused. I don't know if that's a thing with Canva or not. Shoot. Okay. Okay. Can you see that?
Yeah, we can see it. Try expanding
Okay.
your screen to presentation mode and see if that works.
I think that's what's gonna, yeah, that's what causes it to stop sharing. So I think I'm gonna have to do it at the other way, and I apologize. Now,
Yeah,
can
no
you see
problem.
it? Okay, must be a Canva glitch. So in any case, anyhow, I just want to get some definitions out of the way so that we're all on the same page. In 1995, Dr. Karen Carlson defined women's health in her textbook, Primary Care of Women's Health. And, you know, it's really interesting. I think we've taken this as kind of a mantra. Those are the conditions that manifest differently, like cardiovascular disease, disproportionately in women. 80% of people with osteoporosis have are women. 66% of people with Alzheimer's are women, and a majority of women are also make up some of the autoimmune categories. And then, of course, those conditions that are exclusively or nearly so in women, obviously breast cancer being one of them. I also wanted to define femtech, and I was very excited. I don't know if the Cambridge Dictionary has anything to do with the Oxford Dictionary, well, but it did make a dictionary, and that is femtech, which was coined by Ida Tin, who's the founder of Clue. And it really is, as an abbreviation for female tech, electronic devices, software, or other technology relating to women's health. I think it's also become shorthand, if you will, for just women's health, this women's health sector in general. And then finally, we're talking about personalization. And, you know, for so long, we have really focused our attention on population health, and meaning looking at the entire population and making some conclusions. And I think that's why, for example, we've had so many different screening guidelines from so many different organizations, because it was really looking at it from a population health. What I'm really excited about is that a lot of the tools that you're going to hear about today and beyond are really focused on looking at people with their individual characteristics, all of which are listed here, and then tailoring their healthcare delivery treatments and interventions based on those individual characteristics, whether they're internal in terms of biological factors and health history and current conditions, or more external in terms of lifestyle choices, environmental factors, preferences, and certainly cultural and social context. We know that the digital health market size has increased. If you look at 2024, we're right kind of on, looks like on a cusp of an increase. Mobile apps continue to make the majority of those, make up the majority of that market, but you also see wearable devices increasing, as well as diagnostic tools. And then the other still, again, a smaller amount. And when we think about what women want, and again, I know that this specific conference is really focused on breast cancer writ large. I think in general, what we can say is that women want convenience, accuracy, actionable information, whether it's about going to get a mammography and not having to come back again because it says didn't express, or just really being able to do it at the time that they want to. And they want to be, again, to feel that they can trust these products and that they can, again, do something with it. But what I liked about what Business Insider also suggested is that women want more control. For so long, we've gone into the doctor's offices and felt dismissed or unsatisfied. I think part of that is because the physicians didn't have the information that they needed, because the research hasn't been done historically. And so now there's a way for women to kind of take things into their own hands and also be a partner with the physician by bringing in this data and discussing it. I figured that there's a number of entrepreneurs in this audience. And so I'm not going to go through a lot of specifics, but I do want to talk about the challenges that a lot of these personalized health solutions may face, and things that you want to address as you're developing them. First of all, the data gaps, and the previous speaker just talked beautifully about that. We have not had the research that we need. It wasn't until 1993 that women were mandated to be represented in clinical trials funded by the NIH, and that's a big sector, but it's still it's a subsector. Not until 2016 was it mandated that we should look at sex as a biological variable. And we know that sex, even down to the cellular level, makes a difference. And so we want to make sure that you're building solutions that are based on good evidence. And again, I'm hoping that that's going to grow in the next few years, but we still have to be very mindful of those gaps. Also, the technical constraints, again, algorithms might be based on male-dominated kinds of areas that, again, women and perhaps other underrepresented groups were not represented. And then the speaker before talked about privacy concerns, and especially with apps, and especially in this space where we're talking about fertility and pregnancy and menstruation, and in this environment, privacy is really key. In terms of implementation barriers, we want to know that that the individual, the end user can use it, but also if we're asking people to be partners with their physicians, how easy are we making it for the physicians or providers to use it, or the health systems to use it? And then there may be resource constraints that we need to be aware of. And then finally, the social and cultural factors of the individual. There's certainly still stigma around women's health issues. There's cultural barriers to accessing care. There's socioeconomic disparities. There's language literacy. Even age might, again, impede someone's technological abilities. So all of those, as you do your user experience research, are really important. I thought what was very positive is that WHO did a study and found that even in lower and middle income countries, that the use of certain digital health solutions for women actually provided better outcomes. And so again, it's not, it's just something to be aware of. We're going to talk a little bit about women's health and the different areas, since I'm going to just dive right into them because we have a limited amount of time. And I realize that these are not comprehensive. I'm just using these as really kind of symbols. So if you have a favorite company, please put it in the chat so that we can all know about it as well. The grand DOMs, if you will, probably in this area are Flow and Q, that pretty much focus on tracking mood and cycles, symptoms, and all of that, so women can have an idea about either what to expect or just know where maybe they're more fertile, and so forth. And so Clue actually also started Clue Plus, which is also starting to do predictive analysis. I think as these companies continue to mature, they'll be offering more opportunities. UVA, like Mira and other companies, use urine to quantifiably measure hormones so that a woman can, again, see what her own personal pattern is. It surprisingly, I'm joking, it doesn't always line up to the 14 days ovulation and then 14 days later a period. And so this is very helpful for women who are either trying to get pregnant, want to know about perimenopause, if they're in perimenopause because they have 2 kids, or if perhaps they're going through monitoring and they can use this as an adjunct. I'm sorry, going through infertility treatments. Imply, it just partnered with Bayer's Precision Health. It is a subcutaneous implant for women going through IVF to monitor hormones. And KindBody is a bricks and mortar area, but but it also that's focused on everything from egg freezing to infertility and so forth in that space. But they're also using technology intertwined with their in-person offerings. When we go to pregnancy, again, this is just not even skimming the top, but you can see Mirani, Bloomer, Connect, and Baby Scripts all use monitoring of blood pressure. Mirani and Bloomer, I believe, also do weight, and Mirani is developing a device to monitor high-risk women at home. And they basically, again, do periodic screens. If there's anything that needs to be alerted, they alert the woman and her provider. Again, just having extra eyes and even potentially reducing the amount of times a woman needs to come in, especially if it's not convenient for her to come in by geography or she works, for those prenatal care visits. Nest Collaborative is a virtual lactation program. And again, just the idea that it's available 24/7. I wish I had been there when I was having babies. There's also doula programs that are virtual, again, focused on the woman. Maven, you've probably heard of, and it started out as employee benefit program focusing on managing fertility benefits and providing a wraparound care. And now they're doing some much more throughout the lifespan. Again, using that virtual 24/7 opportunity to reach women at the times that they want. And Curio is a behavioral health company that has the first FDA-approved digital therapeutic for behavioral health focused on postpartum depression. They're expanding their offerings as well. And again, a good example of the way that this technology is being used. Menopause and osteoporosis is booming, it's hot, quote unquote, but just a few different examples. We have MIDI, which again is one of many, but one of the biggest menopause counseling and product companies that they do theirs virtually. The Ember Labs has a device that can cool you off if you're having hot flashes, which it does work. It also works on the other side of the spectrum because I gave it to my daughter because she gets too cold and she uses it to heat her up. Then there is BedZest that cools the bed if you're having hot flashes. And then also OsteoBoost is a fanny pack-like device that was just FDA approved that uses vibration to reduce bone loss in postmenopausal women with osteopenia or kind of pre-osteoporosis. And they combined with Wellen, which is a virtual exercise program to provide an osteoporosis program for their members. Moving on to wearables, I'm sure everybody can, show their wearables. Aura has made a special focus on women's health. You can tag your mood, you can tag your symptoms, you can look at your periods. They have partnered with Clue, Prove, Mira, and others so that you can, again, use that data along with the Aura Ring. Interestingly enough, I diagnosed my sleep apnea through Aura. Not a commercial, but just interesting to see that some things alerted me to the fact that I might have some sleep disturbance. And following that up, in fact, did have sleep apnea, which is not uncommon in women my age. The Apple Watch is certainly a wearable that most people know, and I believe the other one is, I don't know if that's a Samsung or another one. And then Movano is coming out with a women-focused ring as well. It's called the Evie or Evie. And then finally, on the other corner are bras that actually have sensors. This is from Bloomberg Tech. It's not FDA approved yet. It's still investigational. But I just wanted to, highlight that, again, we're going to see all sorts of places that we're going to be providing data, including our clothes. And this is to look at cardiovascular disease in women. I'm not going to spend too much time about AI enhanced screening because you're going to talk about this today, I'm sure. But just to give you an idea about how a dense breast can be highlighted and actually ascertained. And I know I'm going to get the hook, so I'll be very quick, Jerry. Biomarker testing and diagnostics, Evie for the vaginal microbiome. There wasn't a lot of information when they started. They've partnered with academic universities and have really generated a lot of data, as is NextGen, looking at the menstrual fluid. And again, at the bottom, you've got kind of the old technology that's still very relevant, pregnancy test, UTI test, and all of that. Generative AI, again, the fact that we're now building on personalized information to give more and more information to individuals, the more they use it. I'm on the medical advisory board of an app that's doing that for menopause called the Pause. Talkspace seems to be doing that in the behavioral health space, and Kintsugi is looking at voice recognition to diagnose depression. And I'll end right here, if that's okay. The real idea, if you will, is to take this real world data, make meaningful insights based on, again, research, evidence, and the data, and then provide an action plan. It's the old quadruple aim, the right care at the right time, at the right place, at the right cost. And I really think that a lot of these technologies are getting us closer to that. And finally, what we'll need to do is enhance that with the research and development that I believe the White House's Women's Health Research Initiative has really underlined and will continue to grow just because of the people in this room and the women out there that really want these digital solutions. So if you want the questions to ponder, I'll leave them up here, but I really want to thank HITLAB and asking me to be here today. So thank you.
No, that's wonderful, Mitzi. Thanks so much. I'm sorry we didn't have more time for you. I know you had loads more innovations to go through and so many more suggestions, but I think the audience definitely is showing a lot of love for all of the innovations you were describing and all the areas of women's health that they were addressing and stuff as well. But everyone, please do go check out Mitzi's podcast. Not only is she interviewing some amazing guests, but I'm sure if you connect with her also on LinkedIn, and her LinkedIn is in the chat, she'll be happy to share some more information about some of the innovations she may not have got to today, and also maybe share her presentation with you as well, because I think there was some requests in the audience for that. But thanks so much, Mitzi. That was really awesome. But as I mentioned, we do have to get on with the program. We have a whole boatload of speakers still to get through and a lot of other topics to discuss on today's symposium. And two familiar faces to the HITLAB program. Dr. Glenys Mehra, who's on our Breakthrough Alliance board, is going to be interviewing Joseph Conrad from the NIH, talking about some important information around NIH funding, which I think is going to be very, very relevant to a lot of the founders that are on the program today. But Glenys, over to you.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining today. Happy to be here. And thanks again to the HITLAB team for having us. It is my absolute pleasure to be interviewing Joseph, a stalwart supporter of our ecosystem and also dynamic director and educator from my perspective at the NIH National Cancer Institute. So with that, I'd like to hit it off. I know time is of essence. So Joseph, can you describe your role at NIH and how it relates particularly to most of the audience in helping early stage companies?
Sure. So my role at the NIH is primarily to provide outreach and awareness that a company or multiple companies, any company really, can come to the NIH, license our technology that's developed in the labs on our campus, and start businesses around. Okay, so also these same companies can collaborate with our investigators to co-develop technology, whether it be our technology or their technology. And also some companies, particularly new startups and the like, are not aware that they can have their technologies validated in a clinical setting. If that's something they are trying to do, we can help them with that as well. So primarily, we just want to create awareness that NIH is here to actually help facilitate companies' growth and development of economic development, promote economic development through the ecosystem.
Yeah. And so I know a lot of people are very familiar with what we refer to as the extramural programs, the SBIR and STTR funding arrangements. So can you talk about how this is particularly different, your intramural programs, and what are
Sure.
the advantages of going the route of utilizing NIH resources from an intramural perspective versus an extramural perspective?
Right. So for those who aren't aware, NIH is pretty much divided into two sections. The first section is the extramural program, which is what people are mostly aware of, as you mentioned. So this is where you get your SBIR funding, grant funding, R01s, and things like that. So if you are looking for funding from the NIH, you're going to be coming to the extramural program. For the intramural program, which is what I represent, we don't have any money. So people who come to me say, oh, I'm looking for grant funding. It's like, well, we don't have money, but we have technology. And so our role in the intramural program is to move the technology that's created in our labs out to the patients. And the only way that we can do that is through licensing that technology to companies that have the ability to essentially manufacture and commercialize it and get it to patients. And so that's the primary role of the intramural program, which I represent.
Yeah. And I think in our prep call, what was most intriguing to me is the value of that. So generally, early stage founders are very much focused on raising capital, but a lot of people are not looking at the valuation aspect of things and also the commercialization aspects. And so it seems like what you're doing is occupying that commercial phase of early stage development. Can you talk about the idea of collaboration as indirect funding?
Sure. So what we do is it's more of a supportive role. When a company will collaborate with us, let's say, for example, we're doing a clinical trial together, okay? The company will come in with some aspect of financial support for a clinical trial. Right. So they may have to hire a nurse or they may have to provide the study drug. So they'll end up paying for that. But if as the trial goes on, the NIH will cover the cost of the trial if it's done at our clinical center. So we have the largest, clinical center in the world. At any given time, we're doing over 1,000 clinical studies at any one time. And so, but that's completely funded by the federal government. The NIH. So, if it's just throwing a number out there, if it's $1 million, if it costs $1 million to run the trial, that's $1 million that the company won't have to spend or consider in their burn rate, right? So we're actually saving the company money by conducting the trial, and that's a collaboration on the clinical trial side, right? If you're going to collaborate with us to co-develop technology. Similarly, there is some aspect of that, engagement that the company won't have to pay for, right? So for a cooperative research and development agreement type of relationship where the company comes in with their know-how, we come in with our know-how, we put the two know-hows together and create something new. We both jointly own the technology. And the company licenses our ownership rights in the technology to go out and commercialize it. Certain aspects of that relationship are also, covered in terms of what they bring and what we bring. So there's some aspect of that relationship that the company doesn't have to worry about.
Yeah, and I think, just from my perspective, managing a community of founders, what I see is that quite often the ability to remove something off of your balance sheet is sometimes more significant than adding capital to it.
Right.
That's something that I think, thank you for introducing, because in terms of my imagination and my engagement with the NIH, it's usually not on that front. And I imagine that's the case for many other people. Now, specifically around, so you've got the collaboration, you've got the licensing. Now, specifically about the licensing, that's a bit more interesting because the direct path to adding value or for adding funds to a company isn't as clear. And so can you describe, first of all, how does someone go about finding innovation to license from the NIH? And what's the particular value for a company? Why do that? Why go through that headache when you've got so many other things going on when you're starting a company?
Okay, so the best way to find the technology is we have a website. So that's the first thing. So for those who have a pen and pad or recording this, you can go to techtransfer.nih.gov. And that website is the technology transfer site for the entirety of NIH. And so you can find technologies. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll be able to find technologies that are available for licensing. And in that, there are, included in that listing, obviously we're going to have therapeutics, but we also have digital health, software, and diagnostic devices. And so you can peruse those. And if you find something on that list, it's just a matter of contacting the individual who's listed as the contact person for that technology and saying, hey, I saw this technology, I'd like to license it. And then you'll have a conversation about the licensing agreement. And if you're interested in dealing with the licensing agreement, you can negotiate that with the specialist who is overseeing that specific technology. It's just that simple. So it's like shopping for things on Amazon. So what we say is, we're like Amazon, but we don't have next day delivery. So it's easy to find the technologies and actually engage with the individual. So why would you want to come to NIH for technology? Well, traditionally, I think most people are used to going to universities to source technologies, right? If you go to a university, they have great technology. I'm not disparaging universities in any way. They just have a different business model, right? So universities, by and large, are profit centers. Okay, so if you are going to license a technology from a university, the university will more than likely take a degree of equity in your company, right? And so that is one issue. You're giving up equity right away. Also, if you are paying a royalty back for the license, the royalty is going to be the fee for the royalty will be, I don't want to say excessive, but let's just say the exclusivity that you can get from a university is proportionate to how much you actually would be willing to pay for that exclusivity. Okay. And thirdly, if you collaborate with a university, they have overhead, right? So if you put in $4 into a collaboration, $3 of those dollars are going to go to the university to keep the lights on, pay the staff, and keep the stadium running, right? So you contrast that to working with the NIH. As far as the NIH is concerned, we don't take equity in your company if you license a technology from us. Okay, so that's the first thing. Also, the second is the royalty rates that we charge for our licenses are only designed to get a fair return on the public dollar that created the technology. So we're not out to make money on the license. We just want to make sure that we get a fair return on the license. So, and the reason for that is, the technology has already been paid for by the taxpayer, right? So there's no reason for us to upsell the, for lack of a better phrase, but, put a premium on the license. Okay. And then lastly, we don't have any overhead, again, because the taxpayer has paid for the technology. So if you put, $4 into a collaboration with us, $4 are going to go directly to the collaboration. Now, one institute at the NIH does have overhead, but it's capped at 15%. And so that is, the gist of working with us over working with the university. Now, I'm not saying don't go to a university, but what I do like to say is if you're going to go shop at a university for technology, where universities have great technology, let's just make that clear. Put us on your list, because you might find something with us that you might not find at the university. And if you find something, our business model is going to be more business friendly to your interest.
Yeah. And I imagine that goes towards the mission that NIH has and that reflects in probably taking on more risk and more towards angle of public health and underrepresented issues in our healthcare system.
Well, we have a preference for small business. right? So that's a major function for our development of this technology. We want to make sure that we're supporting small businesses, and by doing that, we are promoting economic development. Right. So some companies ask, well, how, if I'm competing against big pharma, how do I win? Right. So the scenario we give is that if a small company is interested in the technology and a large pharma is interested in the technology, but the small company has the ability to bring that technology to market, then the technology will more than likely go to the small business if they can prove that they have the ability to do that, because by doing that, the small business is going to end up, hiring more employees, renting out lab space, paying lease on a lab location, et cetera. So it's adding to the economic development cycle to keep people employed and have families do what they do, because somebody's getting a paycheck. The large pharma, they don't necessarily, I don't want to say they don't need it, but I think small businesses need it more.
Yeah, and that's really commendable. And we've seen the economic impact of federal support in academic research and also at the early stage here in New York, at least. And so what I imagine is that if you're targeting early stage companies, there's different levels of expertise, experience. I'm assuming quite a lot of people who are an audience member here, maybe first-time founders. So what are the basic requirements to be considered? I assume that you can't just cook out an idea in your kitchen sink and then go to the NIH and say, okay, I want a license.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in your living room and it's like you've had this flash of genius and it's like, hey, I got this great idea, what you're going to actually need to be able to establish is that you have the capabilities, the team, the funding, the ability to take this technology, get it commercialized, manufactured, and then get it to the patient populations that's there. If you can establish that, then by all means, you're likely to be able to be successful with a license or a collaboration.
Yeah. And is there any special consideration of for this then translating into an SBIR?
Well, I know that you can take a licensed technology that you get from the intramural program and then take it to an SBIR program, right? Mm-hmm. So if you look at it from the perspective of, the company in-licenses a technology because they want to add it to their pipeline, or they want to start their company with this technology, the next phase is funding, right? Yeah. So basically what you end up getting with a license is the exclusive right to manufacture, market, and sell that. Mm-hmm. And you can take that to, an SBIR or raise additional funds outside of the SBIR programs. But there's no preclusion for, doing that in that regard.
Yeah. So I think just keeping the audience in mind, what are some examples of technologies available or even success stories that you have?
We've got hundreds of technologies. If you go to the website, you'll see hundreds of technologies. So I can't really focus on any one specific. But we did do a webinar on a specific women's health technology. It was a wearable monitor for monitoring pregnancy, health, and progress. This device actually combines the technology from two separate monitoring devices. I think one is called a cardiotachograph or CTG monitor. I think that monitors placenta health on the mother. And then there's also a device called a Toco, I think it's called a Toco dynamometer. And that particular device monitors the baby's vitals. So we developed a technology that combines both of these into one device, and it's a wearable device for that the mother can wear in the privacy of her home and access the information from her phone and send that information to the physician. But we have a lot of technology, software-based, app-based, and wearable-based technologies that the companies can peruse. As far as a success story, one of the digital health technologies wasn't necessarily women's health focused, but we partnered a entrepreneur with the National Institute of Diabetes and Kidney Diseases. This particular investigator was looking at the effects of the diabetes drug on sleep, and this particular entrepreneur company developed a wearable sleep device. So if you know of people who have gone to a sleep center for something like sleep apnea or whatnot, it's not a very pleasant experience. And so what he did is created a device that the patient would wear around their waist in the privacy of their own home, and it captured the same type of data that you would get at a sleep center. So this particular investigator at the NIH had a protocol where his patients had to go to a sleep center. After that first experience, they didn't want to go back. And so the study was in jeopardy of being canceled until we introduced this individual to this investigator. And the company was able to provide 10 of these devices to the investigator for the study. The patients took it, wore it in their homes without any problems. The data that they received was fantastic, and the study went off extremely well. The investigator was able to write the paper, and the company was able to say, hey, we validated our technology in an NIH clinical setting. And because of that, they were able to go off and raise, capital on that. And this company now is doing extremely well in terms of, the amount of capital that they've raised. They've actually taken that wearable device that goes around your chest and reduced it down to a wearable ring. And some other aspects. They have contracts with the Veterans Affairs and also with Department of Transportation. Anywhere that sleep is, key to, the business model, they are doing extremely well. And, a lot of that benefit came from the fact that they were able to validate their technology in a clinical setting at the NIH.
Oh, that's amazing.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah. Joe, Glenys, really, really amazing conversation with Joe. We could definitely listen to you guys all morning and especially get some more advice from Joe about all the amazing resources that the NIH have. We did make sure that we put that link in the chat for you, Joe, that you mentioned around the tech transfer piece. And it's amazing interview. Thanks so much for talking with Joe around all those bits of information that are going to be really useful to the audience today. But it's always a pleasure to have you both on the program.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Glenys, thank you as well.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you again for having us, and looking forward to advancing this conversation further.
All right. Looking forward to it as well. Take care, everybody.
Absolutely. No, thanks so much, guys. And talking about advancing the conversation, do please make sure to connect with both Joe from the NIH and Glenys from BioLabs, two amazing individuals and organizations that are supporting the ecosystem right now. And further on from advancing the conversation, we're going to move right ahead to an important interview around supply chain, which is, of course, important both on the breast cancer awareness side as well as human rights in general. And we're going to be listening to Randy Subramani and our very own Ansley Bowen. Ansley, take it away.
Thank you so much, Jerry. And it is my pleasure to talk to Randy today. It's always so great to see you, Randy, on our virtual and in-person events. And so I'd love if you could please give the audience a brief background on yourself, and then we'll get right into the content.
Sure. Ansley, and thank you all on the HITLAB team for allowing me to speak about topics that may not be near to many of us, but it's critical to realize the importance of having a robust supply chain management program. So I serve as the director of supply chain over New York Presbyterian Hospital, and in essence, my team is responsible for ensuring that all disposable supplies, and we'll discuss a few of them today, are readily available for patient care. And that ranges from receiving, the ordering, the distribution, some layers of contracting. So excited to connect the dots with how those processes connect with the critical importance of breast cancer screening and treatment options.
Yes, absolutely. And can you describe how an efficient healthcare supply chain can actually impact the availability of breast cancer screening and treatment options?
Sure. So, Ansley, I'll term it as, and this may not be thought about so readily to those who are listening, but the supply chain impact is pivotal. Why do I say that? So you think of all the things, whether it's equipment or supplies that go into breast cancer screening and treatment. You have mammography machines, you have biopsy kits, you have dyes, you have treatment medications. All of those need to be accessible at the point of care and at the right time, at the right place, in the right quantity to ensure that there aren't delays that could hinder patient care. So just to give an example or two, like when you think of mammography machines and the associated consumables, that's the dyes, the films, all the biopsy kits, all of that has to be readily stocked. So when patient ABC walks into the room for that care, all of that, all of those components are readily available. And it's now more than ever, whether you're seeing it, and not to go too off topic, whether you're seeing, hurricanes that are impacting shortages of IVs and other critical supplies, it's easier said than done. I'm sure many folks are saying, Randy, why, just have them readily available. I wish the world of supply chain is becoming so complex. But, to get back to the topic at hand, when it comes to the other side of the supply chain, the pharmaceutical side, ensuring that drugs or hormone treatments are ready for patients, and just access to like linear accelerators, shielding equipment, the specific radioactive isotopes that are just needed for screenings and treatments are essential. And, I can go on more and more, Ainsley, about the anti-nausea medications and PPE, but I'll just term it at having a well-coordinated supply chain, whether it's with your distributors, whether it's with your manufacturers. It's fundamental to achieving better patient outcomes, which help to drive extending life. So I'll leave it at connecting those dots with supply chain. You heard it here first, connecting supply chain management to the ability to extend life.
And I will say, just for me personally, I don't think I've ever connected those dots before myself, thinking of how supply chain actually can affect breast cancer screening because of all the stuff that you need in order to make this happen, like you mentioned, and same with like hurricane and natural disasters. You don't I just don't think about how supply chain is so crucial to getting all of these needed medications and everything else to kind of make the system work. And so I think it's so important that we're talking about this today because I hope we at least create awareness for other people that supply chain is really critical behind the scenes to make kind of our healthcare world go round. And so on that topic of understanding that, how can data analytics in the supply chain also be used to help identify gaps in the breast cancer care accessibility?
Sure. So a great question. And I think there's two buckets of utilizing some real-time information and then predictive information. So Ainsley, to briefly touch on the first, I think everyone may be aware, but if not, this world of having sensor tracking, of knowing where you are expected to receive a shipment of supply A, B, and C, where it is in real time. I think we're all used to as humans, I think the previous speaker referenced the Amazon of the world. You order something, it comes the next day. Oh, if life were so simple in healthcare supply chain where you order something and you'll have a tracking number, but you won't exactly know, hey, it left this dot. We're not advanced enough yet, but I think getting to the point of having real-time data can allow healthcare supply chain professionals and even providers to understand how much of something am I using. As health systems become larger and care is in an urban setting and rural settings, we can then measure, those systems can then measure geographic disparities in how resources, and I'm speaking specifically from the lens of supplies, how they're allocated, and then try to detect those bottlenecks. So the movement towards real-time data will help immensely. With real-time data, we can become a lot more, and I'm using some buzzwords, but they're so relevant and will become more and more relevant in supply chain, having the ability to predict and anticipate from a supply chain perspective, not seasonal demands, but then also utilizing real predictive analytics to just proactively address shortages, where you may, for example, to connect to my first answer, you may say, oh, this region of our health system tends to be running low on the screening resources, whether it's the mammographies or the biopsy kits, and how do we create targeted interventions around that? So I'll end this question by saying connecting the real-time tracking and the predictive, again, bold, big claims, and that's why I'm here. Supply chain effective supply chain management is critical towards population health management and ensuring specifically like high risk areas have some resources to help them receive the care they need.
Absolutely. And I also want to just understand, what are your recommendations also that you would give to other organizations who are looking to improve their supply chain practices, while also being a little bit more specific to promoting breast cancer awareness as well?
Sure. Ainsley, I would like to hit on four of them. So I think the first is, in a supply chain organization, hospitals, you contract with thousands of suppliers or vendors. I think developing partnerships with suppliers that are prioritizing health equity and in their mission statement or in their vision statement, it is critical because I think you'll find those organizations, although they may be for profit and margin driven in some sense, they will have a commitment to serving those in underrepresented or underserved areas. So, number one, partner with organizations that are prioritizing health equity. I think number two, connecting back to the second question, is really incorporating data analytics predictively and in a real-time manner to help understand how resources from a supply perspective can be allocated. And I'm a supply chain guy. That simply means to me like how to determine like where things go and the logistics of supplies. The third, slightly connecting back to the fourth, large organizations, having their supply chains connected back to community-based initiatives, having organizations that are able to donate supplies to organizations. I mean, sure, everyone hears about hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of MRI machines and how expensive those are, but biopsy kits are relatively affordable for hospitals to engage with community-based initiatives to help donate. And I think that the last thing I'll say, and connecting back to the element of data, it's just we're entering this era of, or I'm optimistic that we're entering an era into transparency and noticing more about how things are produced, where they're produced, and tracking those life cycles, and just extending that transparency to the public, I think will help to build trust, especially when you're talking about breast cancer awareness and breast cancer treatment. It's critically important that that healthcare professionals get this right. But as a supply chain leader, I would say focusing on these four recommendations will help promote breast cancer awareness and just really drive us forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And Randy, I want to put you on the spot here just really quickly and ask you one more question because
Sure.
I'm intrigued from this conversation. Where do you think that the supply chain innovation is headed in the next couple of years for the future? Do you see there being, more awareness, more equity behind this that is really going to be able to connect those dots more? And in the case that we have another unfortunate natural disaster, how can we easily, overcome this with, connecting those dots?
Yeah, Anthony, and I really appreciate that question. I like it. It's a hot seat question. I'll leave it simply as, I'm optimistic that, generative AI and as organizations begin to incorporate AI sensor technology, which healthcare lags. I'll be very candid with you. Hospitals lag, even the big med tech providers are not where they need to be. I mean, Amazon and Walmart may be the market leaders, but not directly tied to healthcare. But I think as organizations incorporate more of that intelligence at a sensor level, at an AGI level, they'll be able to then, pull data to say, hey, where are these critical supplies? Or hey, we had a significant disruption. Here's what we have on hand. Here's where we can distribute. So, but Ainsley, I'll leave it more around. I'll leave it in the short term as AGI sensor technology is the path forward to aligning supply chain to so many critical areas of healthcare.
Well, thank you so much, Randy, again for again connecting the dots with supply chain and breast cancer. It was super informative for me, and I'm sure to our audience as well. It's always a pleasure to have you, and we hope to have you again in 2025, and hopefully get to have you in person at our May Summit as well.
Yes, indeed. Thank you all so much. Take care.
Thank you, Randy, and back over to you, Jerry.
No, that's fantastic, Ansley. Randy, it's always a wonderful spot to have you on the programs, and really brilliant for you to be able to share your insights with us as well, especially around supply chain, as Ansley mentioned, something you don't often think about when it comes to healthcare and especially digital health as well. But we're always so appreciative of your time, Randy. For those of you who want to hear more from Randy or any of our other speakers, they will be at the Innovator Summit in December. So please do check out the Summit website to find out more about it, as well as the speakers, the agenda, ways to potentially get involved as well, as there are still some sponsor opportunities for the event if you want to increase your brand awareness, or get in direct contact with some of the thought leaders and decision makers within the HITLAB ecosystem. But talking about the summit itself, and something we love to do on our HITLAB programs, we do have an October Symposium giveaway. So those of you who have stuck with us for our first half of today's Digital Health Symposium are in with a chance at least 3 times today, if you are able to stick around until 2 o'clock Eastern time, to win one of these 3 amazing giveaway prizes that HITLAB is donating to our symposium audience. We have the opportunity for a shout out on LinkedIn with a tag, because branding is important, of course, as well as a 1-year breakthrough general fellowship that's valued at $99 to be able to get involved with some of the community in some of the virtual networking and knowledge share sessions with some exclusive insights from some of the speakers that we have heard from today, as well as others within the HITLAB network and leadership team. And the top prize for our giveaway today is going to be a ticket to join us and the other speakers that you may have heard from today at the Fall Innovators Summit in December, running from December 2nd to 4th, the week after Thanksgiving, in New York City. And where else to be in the world during the holiday season than New York, which is an amazing, iconic location. The team has put a link in the chat to put the code into to be in with a chance to win. And our first code word for today, of course, is October, as we are just coming out of it, going into Halloween and Diwali, and going into November, which is going to be our holiday season of Thanksgiving, and then on to the festive season of December. So do make sure that you visit the link, pop in the code word October, to be in with a chance of winning one of those 3 fantastic prizes to get more immersed into the HITLAB community. There is a couple of other things I want to mention before we move on to our next speaker. I do see a couple of the folks on the MedCurio team in the audience, so if you can accept the promotion to panelist option when it comes onto your screen, it would be great to get you guys onto the panel so that we can continue with the program today. As mentioned, we have the Fall Innovators Summit coming up in December. You can scan the QR code here or visit the links that the team has put into the chat. Just for today, we are running a special Halloween discount, if you like, for the 31st of October. It only comes around once a year. And this is the one time of this year. We're offering a 31% off site-wide offer for all of the tickets to the summit. Depending on whether you are a healthcare provider or a vendor, an investor, or in the academics or in the life sciences, there are different tiers of tickets that are available, and you can enjoy a 31% discount. Just for today, it ends on the stroke of midnight, PT, that is. So do please check it out when you can. Scan the QR code, like I said, or go to the website and go to hitlab.org/summit. So a couple more things to just mention. As you know, we are looking at breast cancer awareness and human rights for this symposium today. And if you did miss the Women's Health Tech Challenge pitch competition 2 Fridays ago, please do go to our YouTube website where all the recordings are available, and you can hear what the amazing innovators pitch their solutions on those recordings, and of course find out who won our top prizes as well. On the topic of pitch competitions, we are running a final call for applications for our Versally challenge. Versally is a product of Kenvue, which is a spin-off of Johnson & Johnson, that has kindly sponsored 3 top prizes for this specific competition centered around menopause. So if you do have a solution, those of you in the audience, or know somebody that has a solution that is centered around menopause or has some applications to menopause, you do have a chance to win $10,000, $15,000, and $25,000 courtesy of Versally, who is looking for innovators and solutions that are addressing that really important aspect of women's health. So we have a slight change to our programming, and we're going to have James Drage from Heroic come on. I know he's been on the program before, and I'm sure some of you have met him in person and had the pleasure of seeing him and chatting with him at our previous May Summit. And I've got the pleasure of speaking with you today, James, to talk around some of the new projects that you're involved in, but more importantly, around the topic of looking at the different things of neuroplasticity, if I can wrap my tongue around that properly. But pleasure to have you on, James. Those in the audience that aren't aware of who you are, please give us a quick 30, 60-second background about yourself and what you're currently doing.
Yeah, thanks, Jerry. The quick background, I came from the M&A industry originally, did a few startups, exited the startups, went into the venture capital space, have been investing in venture capital for about 20 years. Somehow we got into addiction and behavioral health as a main area of concentration. And, around COVID, we had some investments in the addiction rehab space. So, think about a rehab where people go 30, 60, 90 days. I'm in Canada. Our investments in the rehab space anyway, were in Canada. And a lot of them got shut down during COVID. And we were really trying to figure out, this is healthcare, and yet it was shut down and many people who needed help were not able to get it. And, it's a longer story than I have to tell today, but, we used this program called Exponential Organizations, Salim Ismail, some people may know, and they really forced us to look at what would a 10x success be in that line of business. And it wasn't about going from, 10 million to 100 million in sales or, increasing the profits. It was exponentially expanding the number of people we could reach. And the only way we could do that was digital health. You can't build enough rehab spaces. You can't train enough therapists, counselors, and people to reach everyone who needs help in addiction and behavioral health. But if you create digital solutions, they're essentially infinitely scalable. They meet, I'm a big fan of, Singularity University. They have the 6 Ds about digitizing, demonetizing, disrupting. I don't remember them all, dematerializing solutions. And, so what we really did is we started a side fund called Abundance Behavioral Health Holdings and started investing in digital health projects only. And so that was probably more than a minute. But, what's happened over that time, over the last couple of years, what we found as we've started investing, we've become very much fans of digital therapeutic video games. I know that there's been a lot of, I'll quote unquote, failures on the business side, that some of the hype has not lived up to their promises. But we're big fans of it. And, as you alluded to, in the quote unquote title of this discussion, is really what we've learned is that digital therapeutic video games can help build, repair, and strengthen neural connections and central nervous system connections in a way that, we would say takes advantage of neuroplasticity. And when you do that, when your neuroplasticity, when your brain heals or your brain gets stronger, when you build, repair, and strengthen neural connections, what happens is the pause between stimulus and response increases. Mm-hmm. People don't jump automatically into fight, flight, or freeze. And so they can then access in their subconscious or other ways best practices to control, depression, anger, PTSD type thoughts, deal with brain injuries and concussions. It's mind-boggling to me the number of indications that we've learned neuroplasticity can help.
No, that's fantastic, James. Yeah, I mean, look, you had a quick word with me before we got on about, this new project that you're on, and it certainly sounds really fascinating. And to delve a little bit more into sort of looking at the benefits around digital therapeutics, and obviously promoting neuroplasticity, as you mentioned. I know you are also sort of concerned about how that also focuses on the underserved populations as well. And we'd love to hear more about sort of how that addresses, the underserved populations, through the use of these digital therapeutics.
Yeah, thanks, Jerry. Look, when we were in the rehab space, rehab was expensive. We were $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a month. And so, we were for rich people, essentially, or people that had tremendous support. But there's lots of underserved populations. And so one of the things that we decided when we, so I should say that, what happened, Jerry, is we ended up selling the rehabs. We had a big methadone pharmacy chain. We sold the methadone pharmacies. What we did is we got rid of everything that couldn't scale through digital solutions. And we took the money that we got from that and we started, that's what we're using to invest in these digital solutions. But, if you look at underserved populations, it could be marginalized populations. We're working specifically right now with prisoners in the corrections industry. We're working with some indigenous groups where, especially for behavioral health conditions, there's lots of concurrent or co-occurring disorders. And so because of that, people don't really know how to serve them. But digital, and especially digital games, almost everybody loves to and knows how to play a game. And if you make it fun and engaging, people will do it. People, lots of people have phones or tablets without having a ton of money, and they have access to, internet or data, cellular data, so that they can access these types of games, get the neuroplasticity healing, and so on. And so, I think we just break down a lot of barriers.
Yeah, no, I think you're totally right there. That's really interesting to hear. And I know you've been really thoroughly involved in a lot of the design elements as well around sort of digital therapeutics as well. So it'd be great to get an idea from you around sort of expanding on that idea of how digital therapeutics can actually be designed to ensure more accessibility, more inclusivity, particularly with folks that have very varying degrees of digital literacy as well.
Yeah, and it's not just digital literacy, right? You look at things like language problems, or, in the gaming industry, video game industry, they talk a lot about localization. And so, a game needs to be engaging and fun, not just for, the population that I'm in, right? So that, I can't play the game and find it fun. What happens is, I need people who speak different languages or have different cultural traditions, different heritage. We can take a game and you can localize it so that it fits with everybody. And you can do it in a way that, if somebody is not literate, if they don't read or, so on, the game can talk to them. They can talk back to the game. There's lots of games, where there's no speaking or reading whatsoever. One of the best games ever built is a game called Journey, that was built for the PlayStation. It's not a digital therapeutic, but it's a game that requires you to work with somebody else who's also playing the game, who's probably on the other side of the world, who probably doesn't speak your language. And if you don't work together, you can't beat the game. And it's one of the most, people say, cathartic game experiences. People cry when they play this game. They have emotional reactions when they play this game, and it wasn't built as a digital therapeutic. So imagine if you purposefully design a game like that, but you work with scientists, you work with medical professionals, and you work with university and hospital researchers, and you embed in that game digital health ideas and proven ways to build, repair, and strengthen neural connections, as just one example, to deal with depression, to deal with anger, to deal with PTSD, to deal with a brain injury.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I know I'm going to be visiting the PlayStation store at some point to check this game out and see how cathartic it is. So
get that Journey game. I'll play with you.
Sounds good. Sounds good. You have to send me your gamer tag at some point, James, so we can play together. And those of you in the chat, please feel free to put your gamer tags in so we can link with you guys and play Journey together. In terms of sort of looking at neuroplasticity, and sort of looking at the different ways and principles of how it can inform the development of effective digital health interventions, can you sort of speak to that in a sort of a more broader sense, James?
Yeah, look, let me first say, of course, I think everybody knows probably on the webinar, I am not a medical professional. I'm not a counselor. I'm not a therapist. And so, this is, an investor's take. I've been in the industry for a while now, but, again, as I alluded to earlier, if somebody has, neural connections in their brain that are broken, damaged, or missing, and, that could be because they didn't go through the developmental steps or developmental pathways that they were meant to go through as a child. It could be because they had trauma. It could be because they were exposed to a toxin. It could be because they, took drugs. There's all kinds of reasons your brain gets messed up. And what happens is when the neural connections aren't firing properly, as I said, the pause between stimulus and response that's supposed to be there isn't. And we jump into fight, flight, or freeze. Fight, flight, or freeze is almost always negative. And so, like the simplest way I can describe it is with a game, it's been validated now that you can build, strengthen, and repair neural connections. And the strengthen part is particularly important because, it's not just really to take a weak connection and make it strong. It's to take an existing strong connection and keep it strong so that you don't develop problems in the future. We know about aging, and I don't want to get into dementia, Alzheimer's, and different things, but there's lots of neural connection implications for some of these, longer term things. And just as we can repair neural connections, we now are working on, with some of these projects, central nervous system type connections. There's lots of connections through this central nervous system, literally from your head to your toes. And when they get messed up or broken or damaged over time, there's an indication that along with therapies and drugs, that digital therapeutics should be part of the package that we use to heal people.
No, I think that's some amazing points there, James. It's always such a pleasure to have you on the program, James.
Thanks, Jerry. Yeah,
I always learn something new from you every time you come on, and as much as you're not a healthcare provider yourself, there's I think some fantastic insights that you've been able to share with the audience today. And I think you're coming to the summit in December.
I am
as well.
Yes.
So those of you in the audience who want to hear more from James, please do grab your ticket application now and come and meet James and hear more around about the digital therapeutics that he's involved in and the effect it's having on neuroplasticity. I got there in the end with a word. But James, it's a pleasure having you on the program.
Thanks, Jerry.
Do connect.
Always great to be part of HITLAB.
No, absolutely. It's always wonderful to have you on. Thanks so much, James.
Thanks.
Do connect with James on LinkedIn. We have put his LinkedIn details in the chat. And as I said, do please try and get to the summit in December in New York City to connect with him in person and hear more about the work that he's doing, especially around his insights on digital therapeutics as an investor as well. So we're moving on. As I mentioned, we have a slight change to the programming, but now I think we have Buzz Stewart on from MedCurio, one of the amazing innovations that HITLAB has currently working with. Buzz, are you there? I see you just coming on now. There you go. Fantastic. All right. Brilliant. Can you hear me, Buzz?
I can. Yep.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thanks for coming on the program. I know we had a slight change, and I'm glad and really appreciate that you're able to move your time around for us. But I think it's really important that the audience today gets a really good introduction to, of course, who you are and what MedCurio is doing, which is a really important digital health solution that is going to be impacting very soon, and I think in a large way, the way that delivery is being administered in the healthcare systems. But Buzz, give us a quick 60-second sort of introduction to yourself, of course, to the audience that aren't familiar with who you are and what MedCurio is.
Sure. So before we launched MedCurio about 4 years ago, I was a R&D leader in healthcare for about 15 years, first at Geisinger, and then the chief research officer at Sutter. And we did a lot of we invested a lot of effort in trying to use data in real time because we saw it as an essential asset for improving care, and wrestled with that for 15 years and decided that a dominant barrier to really successfully doing that was interoperability. So we started Medcurio basically to solve that problem.
No, that's wonderful. And of course, the whole idea around Mercurio is really to improve the way that EHRs are functioning. And we'd love to hear a little bit from you around sort of the concept of real-time EHR data usage and the importance of it, of course, in healthcare today.
Yeah, good question. Yeah, I'm going to start with the second part of that because it's been a constant in my career. And in fact, if you're in healthcare, you hear it all the time. And it has to do with where the money comes from. So one of the constant trends is that the average reimbursement for healthcare services has and will continue to decline, and that's happening because the publicly funded share of paying for healthcare continues to increase. In 1987, Medicare, Medicaid, and other public payment sources accounted for 30% of all healthcare reimbursements. In 2022, it was 48%, and that's going to continue to go up. Historically, executives manage this problem by trying to go after the commercial insurance market because it just paid more. But that option is basically evaporated. And so now backs are against the wall, and this financial pressure, which really is a vital threat, can only be solved by substantially reducing the cost of delivering services. And I think that this is sort of a vital threat. And I think that the only way that you can do that is the way we've seen it happen in other industries, which is to use data in real time to automate work. And in healthcare, you say, well, what data are most related to all the services that we want to reduce the cost of? Because if we reduce the cost, then we have more net. And of course, electronic health record data are the cornerstone for virtually every service that we offer to patients. So they're critical ingredients. And if you think about how you automate, what you have to do is to say, well, what does this person do? And then you have to build a software workflow that mirrors what they do. It has to have this special quality in healthcare, I think, to both be systematic and flexible. And then the critical ingredient is getting electronic health record data in real time to fuel that workflow. And I think one thing that people don't realize often is that this is really precision engineering. And what I mean by that is that the data that you're accessing has to be timed very precisely, and it has to fit the process very precisely to drive the process. And we've had a challenge, I think, in this space for the past 15 years as automation first started to emerge with the electronic health record. And it's a dominant challenge, I think, that we have to sort of solve, and that's our interest over the past 5 years.
No, that's fantastic. I totally agree with you. I mean, it's I think one of the huge obstacles in healthcare systems today is that sort of real-time sort of data access and interoperability, as you said, of EHR data. And, can you talk a little bit more about sort of the different ways that real-time use of EHR data can actually be used to continue to improve the way that the healthcare systems are being run?
Yeah, so I would say that there's lots of opportunities to improve healthcare because there are so many problems, but there are also so many areas where use of electronic health record data in real time can really improve how we deliver care, can reduce burden on providers and nurses. And I think one of the exciting things with the emerging era of AI is the way in which it can play a more substantial role in amping up what we can do in both automating and facilitating work of others. The dominant focus of automation work with electronic health record today is mostly around offloading repetitive work. And that's already happening or has happened with billing and coding, with prescription management, regulatory compliance and reporting, to some degree, patient management, but I think in a limited way compared to what we could do. To some degree, scheduling, but not the more complex scheduling where a lot of money is at stake. And also it's limited in other areas where the diversity of the electronic health record data that are needed is substantial. So the challenge we face is as the diversity of data that you need increases, it's less likely that you could really automate that process. I will say on the front line of care, which is an area where I think there are serious concerns from work burden and burnout, we're seeing automation in clinical documentation and charting. And also finally some initial work, I think, in basket automation for physicians, which is a dominant cause of burnout. But we're at the very early stages of, I think that in basket, I don't think we're doing much for physicians. We can go a lot further, especially with AI in pretty much automating the whole workflow process and offloading all that work from both doctors and the nurses who currently are getting the triage of their work. So I think that's a quick snapshot, I think, of what's going on, but there's a lot of areas where we're not yet having success in automating, and that is where the data diversity needs are pretty expansive.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Can you talk can you expand a little bit more on sort of some of the major challenges that these healthcare organizations are facing, especially when trying to use applications that are going to be requiring the real-time use of EHR data, particularly maybe some of those establishments that are more rural, perhaps than others.
Yeah, so to me, one of the exciting things is to see, and we've been watching this for 15 years, is to see how the application development space itself has revolutionized. I mean, when I first started out, it was heavy lifting, doing all the coding, and this profound transition to no-code solutions really allows you to think about the solution you want to create and doing it in precise ways. So it's exciting to see that continue to evolve. And we're seeing it everywhere. I mean, Salesforce, if you look at the kinds of tools that are available, it's stunning. And the same thing I would say in the data processing space and infrastructure space. So lots of revolutionary changes, I think, happening. The major challenge I think that everybody faces is with electronic health record data interoperability. And if you're going to automate work in high-cost areas, you need real-time access to whatever data, electronic health record data, is required to precisely fit the workflow process. And it has to be accessible in a way that can be done, I think, it has to be done in sort of days or minutes and not in current state, weeks or months. But one of the fundamental challenges, especially if you want to access Epic electronic health record data, is you're pretty much confined to the same tools that I used 10, 15 years ago, HL7 messages, FHIR APIs, vendor APIs, and all those related methods. And they only give you access to about 40% of the 90,000 or so data field. And it is a heavy lift to use those methods. We use those when I was at Sutter, and I would say that it was challenging and problematic to maintain applications in production. We actually were among the first to switch to hiring cache coders to build APIs so that we could get any data that we needed. But if you've ever tried to do that, it is expensive and time consuming. And I always say that there wasn't a deadline that we didn't violate or a budget we didn't violate because of the difficulties in trying to access data in real time. And we concluded that if we're having trouble and we're in the first position, then the whole market is going to have problems with these limited tools.
Yeah, no, I mean it's always difficult to make any kind of changes to any systems that already have been in place for so long. So it's great that you guys are sort of behind this sort of charge to make sure that we really have effective interoperability within these systems, which is super important to both the physicians and the healthcare providers, as well as the patients, of course. And just to round off, Buzz, this conversation, we'd love to hear a little bit more around the technological advancements that you've seen that have really made a difference in real-time EHR data, and how that's made it more accessible and, of course, and more importantly, usable as well.
Yeah, so there, as I mentioned earlier, there have been, I think, lots of advances for using data in real time, from data management and processing infrastructure, real advances there for fast processing, low cost processing. The orchestration technologies have been critical, I think, to help manage more complex processes. So I think there's a span of new technologies that are right for the time, especially with the emergence of AI. But in general, if you're in the healthcare space and you're trying to focus on facilitating or automating work on the direct service side, if you can't get access to the electronic health record data you need to fuel an application, that infrastructure doesn't matter that much because you can't get the fuel to it. You can't get the precise data to drive processes. And that's why we left healthcare to reinvent electronic health record interoperability. What we've developed is a platform that I wished I had when I was at Sutter, which is a no-code API platform. It takes a couple hours to install in a health system, and it gives an analyst point-and-click capability, basically, to build APIs to access any electronic health record data they need, and they can build and deploy those APIs in a couple of days. They can modify them in minutes. As fast as you're changing the front end, you can now modify the back end plumbing. And it's highly scalable for health systems, often that have multiple instances of an electronic health record. You can build once and export to those instances. And there are other features of our technology that I think are exciting and certainly relevant to the needs that health systems have for automating data. But this automating processes. So I think that the technology that we've developed is a cornerstone, I think, for health systems to begin to better use their investment in the data asset and have full control of it in a way that I think makes sense.
No, that's some really, really excellent points there, Buzz, and I'm sure there's many more that you can certainly make, but we are at time with our session. But really appreciate you coming on, sharing your insights around real-time EHR data, and also telling us a little bit more about Mercurio. And we're really looking forward to seeing how Mercurio continues to develop and really make a difference in today's EHR applications in today's systems, Buzz.
Thanks for having me, Jerry. It's great to be here.
Thanks so much.
Right.
Well, awesome. Everyone, please do check Buzz out. We did put his LinkedIn details in the chat. So if you are wanting to continue that conversation around the challenges of the applications of EHR and real-time data in today's healthcare system. Susan, I see you in the chat, and Mark having a lively conversation there. Please do reach out to Doug. I'm sure he'll be more than happy to continue that conversation, and check out what Mercurio is doing. It's really, really fascinating, the way that they are leading this charge into really improving the interoperability in today's health system. So thanks so much, Buzz.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. So we are now into the last hour of today's Digital Health Symposium, the last hour of the Digital Health Symposiums of 2024, sadly. But the conversations don't have to end here, of course. We are going to another giveaway where we can continue those conversations via the LinkedIn tag and shout out that we can give to one of our lucky winners to put this code word into the link that's been put into the chat by the team. A 1-year Breakthrough Fellow membership valued at $99 to continue conversations with other healthcare professionals and Breakthrough Fellows within the HITLAB ecosystem, and a chance to also win a ticket for free to join us, and Buzz and some of the other innovators that are going to be at the HITLAB Innovator Summit in December 2nd to 4th in New York City at the Microsoft Tech Center. So please do input equity into the field box that's been provided via that link that Sammy has just put into the chat. So as we go into our last hour, we are going to be taken through the next sort of 45 minutes, so the next couple of discussions for today's symposium by our very own Amy West, who leads the advisory services at HITLAB. So you get a break from me and get to hear from Amy and some of our other fantastic innovators and thought leaders within the industry. So Amy, over to you.
Thanks, Jerry, and excited to be here today on Halloween with a very special guest, Michael Peterson, who is the Chief Executive Officer, Managing Director, and co-founder of Information Mediary Corporation, in short, IMC. And we're going to be talking about a really exciting topic around the GLP-1 space, revolutionizing diabetes care, the last mile of GLP-1 therapy with Information Mediary Corporation. Michael, welcome. I'm excited to talk with you. And before we jump in, could you just give a little more background on yourself?
Right. I'm Michael Peterson. I'm co-founder of Information Mediary. We've been in business since 2001, and we essentially develop digital wrappers for medication for the purpose of logistics and medication adherence tracking, information insights, and therapy support.
Wonderful. And I know we've really enjoyed working with you through HITLAB. And to jump into the topic for today's session, can you share and explain what the last mile of GLP-1 therapy means in the context of diabetes care and why it's crucial for effective patient outcomes?
Sure. So we refer to the last mile, or in our case, even beyond the last mile of GLP-1 therapy, as the final phase in the medication delivery process. The patient at that stage actually takes the drug. So it's beyond the point of where the medication arrives at the front door or the pharmacy or through the supply chain. So we are essentially providing insights, information, and support as to the therapy that the patient is adhering to. And we feel it's crucial because it ensures the efficacy of the treatment, which directly then impacts clinical outcomes, and it helps minimize potential complications associated with, in this case, diabetes, by ensuring that the medications are taken properly and handled properly.
I think that's great because that has been a bit of a blind spot, that period of when the person actually gets the medication delivered to when they actually take it. So I agree, it's a critical point to be able to understand. So how does IMC technology specifically enhance medication adherence for those who are going on and using a GLP-1?
Right. So as I mentioned, our core business is supplying digital wrappers and all the ancillary software and system support and cloud and so on. So we're leveraging smart packaging solutions that can essentially track with little sensors inside the package about how the medications are handled and accessed. So with using these sensors and digital tools that we provide, it can remind patients to take their medications as prescribed and provide at the same time the data back to the healthcare providers, which can help ensure adherence to the prescribed regimens. So this real-time monitoring and feedback loop helps keep patients on track with their therapy. That's the bottom line.
I think that's great because, again, that has been a bit of a blind spot, but with this wonderful technology and the ability to track that real-world, real-time data, it's really revolutionary. I think it's amazing. And, As a part of your offering, can you talk a little bit about Certiscan, which is your adherence platform for clinical trials?
Yeah.
And
So
how does that support this initiative?
right. So in addition to providing APIs and as we heard previously, codeless integration, which is important to a lot of healthcare providers, so we can link directly into other systems, third-party systems. But in addition to that, we actually have a comprehensive web platform, cloud platform called Certiscan. And that provides all the interactive tools and resources that can educate patients about their therapy. It offers personalized health tips, reminders, and information on managing their condition. It also tracks the production of the original package right from the source up to the time of use, which is the beyond last mile type of discussion we had, and provides all the necessary support and information and digital data points that are of interest both for the patient and the healthcare provider and the supply chain people that are actually getting the medication to the patient. So this empowering approach basically helps reinforce adherence. And adherence in this case isn't just, did the patient take a pill or did they, take a vial out of a package, but also has the package been handled properly? Has it been stored properly? Has it been left out of the fridge for too long to be effective? So all these things are being tracked and actually analyzed and processed right on the package electronics. So it's not like your traditional, say, a temperature logger where you have a logger and gives you an alarm, and then you got to, send the logger back to some place, or the data has to be analyzed by somebody. This one basically can keep track of and process in real time all the relevant information that pertains to that particular package. So really, by informing the patient about the condition of the package, helping the patient remember the right steps, giving them additional access to information and so on, we really feel that we can not only support the concept of the importance of their treatment plan, but also to make sure that the medication is safe and effective.
Yeah, I think that's great because, so many people are kind of left to their own devices once they get the medication. So that additional support and education is critical. And then also this platform supporting the continuation and the ability to make sure everything is being adhered to appropriately in a clinical trial setting really helps to accelerate those trials. So I think it's a great combination of offerings. And it has a lot of value across many areas of the healthcare industry. So that's amazing to hear. What types of data does your technology capture, and how can it be used to improve patient care as well as treatment outcomes?
Right. So, like I mentioned, we capture data that essentially is collected right by sensors on the package by itself. So that could be temperature, internal temperature of the goods that are inside the package. At the same time, it tracks when a particular dose has been removed from a package because there are sensors that can track that. And therefore, we can actually, for instance, warn that maybe after the second dose, the package has been out of range in terms of temperature, it was forgotten, it was left in the sun or whatever, and warn the patient not to use the remaining doses. So we're not throwing away the whole thing. We're basically providing companion data points as the doses are being removed for a multi-dose package, right? This is also cool for clinical trials, as you mentioned, for a lot of it is solid dose medication, but those medications are often titrated, sometimes temperature sensitive, and certainly time sensitive. So we've got the temperature, time, and access to each particular dose that we're storing on the package. So by analyzing that and identifying adherence patterns, we can basically feed this data back in proper form to enable healthcare providers to tailor interventions. And by understanding these patterns, these adherence patterns and package usage patterns, providers can offer personalized care plans and improve overall treatment outcomes. Or in terms of clinical research, of course, provide better research, because, you know, how can you study a drug if you don't know when and how a patient actually took the drug, right? So
100%. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's amazing too, because these are things we didn't have in the past, and now you can actually capture it. You know, it makes me wonder why, is everybody doing this? I mean, we should be. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, imagine a patient just tapping their smartphone. I mean, we do like to combine these packages with the smartphone, because obviously, while you hear a lot about super duper technologies like you know, printable displays and things of that sort, they get really expensive and prone to failure. You know, you really need as close to 100%, you know, in terms of minimum 3 sigma, in terms of quality and performance of electronics when you're making them available for use in commercial settings, right? So the smartphone is actually a great companion to these smart packages. So we basically implemented by a patient tapping the smartphone just like they would when they're paying a restaurant bill to the package, and then getting all the right information at exactly that point in time. So they would get, depending on who, you know, which app they're using, what detail of information and how it's being presented, they would get basically, you know, a green check mark, everything is good to go. Or they would say, they get a little clock that says, you know, please keep the medication outside the fridge for 7 more minutes until it's acclimatized. And then later on, they would, you know, after they take it, they'd say they could, the app could collect information like, you know, how do you feel, or whatever kind of side effects, you know, and please don't forget to return the package to the fridge, right? Now, if they do forget to return it to the fridge, it would sure know the next time, right? In a week from now, if it's a weekly dose, for instance, right? It would know that it hadn't been returned to the fridge, in which case it would then say, you know, actually you can use this dose, but the additional doses are then going to be expired because they will have reached the, you know, maximum exposure limits, and please go to your pharmacy or physician and retrieve a new package, right? So all these kind of things, I think, help ensure drug integrity, efficacy, and really patient safety by preventing the use of compromised medications.
It's fantastic, and all of that at, you know, at the individual, at the person's fingertips. It makes it very, very easy to adhere and comply. So I think that's amazing. So in the last minute that we have, and as we close out, I would love to hear from you. How do you envision IMC's technology evolving in the next few years? And what impact could it have specifically on diabetes management, as well as things like telehealth that's playing a bigger role in this therapeutic area?
You know, I touched on that a little bit. The kind of temperature analytics that we're doing right on the package, it probably would be nowadays touted as some sort of an AI play. We've been doing this since 2004. So it's really, we call it temperature tracking instead of temperature logging, for instance. So, but in the coming years, I think our technology is likely to integrate more advanced AI analytics as they become available and validated for healthcare use. We're trying not to make our devices be medical devices. We're supporting the usage of the drugs and the proper adherence to regimen, but we're not making therapeutic decisions at this point. I think that'll probably be done in third-party apps. Whether those third-party apps are done by us or another company, who knows? But these AI analytics and telehealth integration, enhancing remote monitoring capabilities, all this evolution could enable more predictive insights, maybe allow for more proactive diabetes management, and enhanced data integration into telehealth platforms can improve access to care and foster a more connected healthcare ecosystem. Well, one of the things that we've done is we've actually invested in a now unicorn called Huma out of UK, and they do virtual wards, they call it. They're big into telehealth. They've been installed in health systems that are already, have already enrolled and touching about 50 million patients. So we're hoping that as telehealth becomes more prominent, these ancillary type of digital wrappers will become more necessary, because what's the point of telehealth if you don't actually know what's inside the package and how it's been used, right?
Exactly. Well, Michael, thank you so much for these insights and the offerings that you have through IMC. It's amazing work, and I'm hoping that people will be reaching out to you, because the smart packaging, there's almost no excuse not to be using it these days.
Absolutely.
So congrats to you, and thank you so much. Have a wonderful, happy Halloween.
Oh, thank you, Amy. Same to you.
You got it. So before we go on to the next session, I just wanted to give a shout out to our upcoming our Innovator Summit 2024. Taking place December 2nd through the 4th at the Microsoft Tech Center in New York City. And to share with you that we have a very special fall savings going on, 31% off our site-wide registration. So it will be applied automatically. So would encourage anyone who's interested in attending to take advantage of this great offer that we have. It's going to be an amazing event. It always is, and I'm looking forward to participating again this year. And with that, I would like to step into our next session, where I'm going to be joined by Terry Huang, who is a distinguished professor at the City University of New York Graduate School of Public Health and Health Policy. And he's also the founder of Firefly Innovations, which is accelerating ventures for public health impact. And we're going to be talking about catalyzing impact, building a public health entrepreneurship ecosystem. But before I jump in, I would love to ask Terry to talk a little bit about himself as well, because he can do it far better than I can. So welcome, Terry.
Hi, Amy. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Love having you here.
Thank you. All right. So I think my first task is to just share very briefly my meandering professional journey and how I ended up founding Firefly Innovations. So I've spent the last 25 plus years in public health, both in the federal government as well as in academia. And throughout much of the last 15 years, starting when I was at the NIH, I really taken on a leadership role in championing a systems approach to addressing our very complex public health challenges. In my case, I've spent a lot of years working in areas related to obesity and chronic disease. And in the more recent times, I've also expanded a lot of my own research in areas of mental health, substance use, in other complex public health domains. I would say that the common thread across all of my work, both in terms of research as well as at the policy level, has really been about trying to connect the dots and thinking about ways that we can actually innovate strategies that sort of cut across the different actors, sectors, and factors that contribute to these very complex public health challenges. And so as part of that work, over the last 15 plus years, I have had the fortune of interfacing with people from different sectors, including those in the private sector, and to bring people together in thinking about how we can tackle our challenges in a more comprehensive and holistic way. So one of the things that really got me interested in venture work and entrepreneurship in general is really the perennial problem that we have in the field of public health, which is that the field is not built to be very agile in fostering innovation and even more importantly, in scaling innovation. And so having dabbled a little bit in the private sector, working with large and small companies, I realized that there's actually a lot that the private sector could offer to those of us that work in either academic public health or in community spaces related to public health. And so about 5 years ago, I decided, okay, it's time that we actually do something about this challenge that everybody recognizes. And my vision for taking on this challenge was to create Firefly Innovations. So Firefly Innovations is a very unique public health entrepreneurship platform housed within the CUNY Graduate School of Public Health and Health Policy. We have lots of different strategies and programs, but our flagship program is a summer accelerator focused on health equity. It runs for 8 weeks, 8 intensive weeks every June and July. And it's a competitive process for early stage ventures to apply to be part of this accelerator. The accelerator is externally facing primarily. So we're talking about early stage companies outside of CUNY. These are real companies that are either early in the marketplace or just getting ready to enter the marketplace. And so there's a focus on health equity. There's also a strong commitment on supporting women and other underrepresented founders. And to my knowledge, we're the only accelerator in the market right now that really sits at that intersection. So I'll stop there, and I'll just say that we've had 5 very successful years so far, and looking to really scale this up further in the years to come.
Well, thank you for that background. I mean, it's really impressive, and I love the story of how your work in the NIH sector really ignited your own entrepreneurship and opening up, and starting Firefly Innovations. I love how that has all come together and bringing these worlds together. It's so important. And also your focus on some of these underserved communities, and particularly women's health. I've got a special passion for that through our Women's Health Tech Initiative here at the HITLAB. So amazing work. Obviously, with 5 years under your belt now, and the work that you're doing, can you share some success stories? I'm sure you have many, but are there 1 or 2 that have kind of come to mind as from your experience in the last 5 years with Firefly Innovations?
Yeah, the first company that comes to mind, since you mentioned women's health, is actually a company that is focused on women's health. The company is called Candlelit Therapy, and it was actually one of our earlier startups, since the launch of the accelerator. And Lauren Elliott, who is a female founder, and because of her own experience dealing with mental health issues during and after her own pregnancy, she realized that there's nothing in the marketplace that really help connect women of color during and after pregnancy with culturally competent mental health care. So she basically set out to solve this challenge that she herself experienced and feel very passionate about. And so we put her through our accelerator, gave her the support. All of our teams give very intensive mentorship team support throughout the 8-week period and beyond. And they also get all the usual, master classes in how you build a company and scale it. And so since leaving Firefly Innovation, she's gone on to be accepted into a lot of other very high-profile commercial accelerators, such as Techstars and Texas Medical Center and others, via which she was also been able to access some early capital to continue to build her business. So that's one example that I really love, both for the cause of what Lauren's trying to solve, but also just the quality of the founder herself. And I know that she, feels very strongly that because of Firefly Innovations, she was set kind of on the right track in order to continue with her success. Another company that I would highlight is called Breakthrough. It's a company that I mentored during this past year's accelerator. Breakthrough is a platform that has a proven success of engaging young adults in behavior change. And they've applied this in a lot of different settings, most recently, working with political parties in swing states to try to get young adults to be registered to vote. And they've been able to demonstrate that through their platform, they're able to do so much more cheaply than what political parties have, historically been spending to engage youth. And so we're actually now looking at a couple of different projects in the health sector where we could actually embed them into our ongoing research as one of the prongs for engaging community members in some of the work that we're doing. And so that's kind of, speaks to some of the uniqueness of our platform, is that we bring our research and expertise in being really connected to the communities that we're serving and that many of the founders are seeking to serve. And so we're able to really work with the founders to find these opportunities to help them validate their product or service and accumulate the evidence to show what impact their product and service could have in the real world. And so that really hands-on approach, I think, is something that is quite unique to what we're doing.
There are many unique features to your platform. I think it's amazing, and your stories are great examples of huge success. How can we let people know about how to engage in Firefly? How would you sort of submit or apply for an opportunity to engage with Firefly?
Yeah, so we do have a pretty decent social media presence. In fact, we're just launching a new series called Firefly Fridays, which consists of a semi, informal kind of workshop, fireside chat, sort of experience. And we hope to do that every Friday going forward. And so be on the lookout for that. And information will be disseminated via our LinkedIn and other social media. The accelerator application process usually begins in the spring. So come February, March, be on the lookout, and we will look to HITLAB to help us get the word out as well when the application actually opens for next year's accelerator. And last but not least, both my information as well as the information of Michael Short, who is the managing director of Firefly Innovations. Our information is online. So just, look up Firefly Innovations on Google. You'll find us. We should be one of the first ones that pops up. And reach out to us by email. And we're happy to connect you or anybody you wish to connect with us.
Terry, amazing story. And we are thrilled at HITLAB to continue to partner with you. We'll do what we can to help support in the very important areas that you're focusing on, that intersection, as you said, between these communities that are underserved as well as women's health. Again, very unique, very important, and we're huge proponents of that here as well. So congrats on all your success, and love to talk to you again, especially in the spring as you amp up your kickoff in the spring for the startups. But a pleasure to talk with you. Any final thoughts before we go?
No, I would just I became a fellow in HITLAB recently, and so I'm really looking forward to creating more intersections in our work and help amplify each other's work in the coming years.
100%. It's a collaboration. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Okay, great conversation. And before our next discussion, would like to share another promotion around our upcoming Versely Innovation Challenge, or the HITLAB Innovation Challenge that's sponsored by Versely. Our call for applications is almost closing. Our deadline has been extended to tomorrow, November 1st, at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. There is an opportunity, if you are the winner, to receive $25,000 to support furthering your innovation. And it's a great way to get exposure for your organization. So would love for people to apply. Again, though, the deadline is tomorrow at 11:59 p.m. So please consider it and submit. We'd love to have you part of the initiative. And with that, I believe we are ready for our next session with Sarah Beckloff, who is an advisor at the Proficient Labs. We're going to be talking about revolutionizing lab efficiency, unlocking the power of the Proficient Lab software. Sarah, before we jump in, could you share a little background, a little more deeper dive into your background?
Sure, and I apologize. I was trying to take my video and turn the background so that the logo was correct and managed to turn off my background.
No worries at all. Technology, and it's Halloween. Yeah. Things happen.
Yes, thank you for fixing that for me. So a little bit about me. I have spent my entire career in the diagnostic space, launching, scaling, and operationalizing very high throughput, very high complexity labs in both chemistry and molecular testing. And my focus has really been on improving patient care and optimizing operations. Oftentimes in patient testing, we are very pressed for time, and money is always a concern, right? And so one of the things that I noticed was the large volume of software programs that I had to use to do all the things that are required on a daily basis. And then that translated to a lot for my staff to learn. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited to talk to you today about the Proficient Lab.
Yeah, I think what you guys are doing is really amazing. And I have a little insight, but I would love for you to provide an overview to our audience here on your lab software. Yeah. And what are its core functionalities? And from your perspective, based on your experience, how is it solving for some of the challenges that you've seen?
Yeah, the Proficient Lab is really a differentiator in the industry. So they provide not only document control and electronic quality management, as though you would normally see in a system, maybe like Viva or something, but they have a training module that to me was really revolutionary. So this enables you to take your training that you've completed at your lab, and when you transition to a new role, you can bring it with you. So you're not starting over in the same sense as what you maybe would without software like this. There's nobody else in the industry that does this. And when you start to think about lean operations and how do you really drive down costs, this is definitely one, because not only are you saving on software costs, implementation costs from an FTE perspective, but when you're transferring to that next role, you can bring your training with you, and that sets you up for success right from day one. They also have a lot of different templates built out. So you can even log your meeting notes. There are quizzes that are pre-populated. So it's really very user-friendly. It's very much plug and play. And nobody has this. So it's, my staff would always complain to me about there's so many softwares to learn. I can't remember which software did which thing. I always have to go back to the SOP. And this simplifies that in the most elegant way. And the fact that Mika, one of the co-founders, spent time at the bench and recognized that this was a gap, and that was really the impetus for why she started it, really lends itself to how well this software works. She understands what the customer needs because she was the customer effectively, before the Proficient Lab even existed.
Yeah, I love that story because, as you were challenged and as she was challenged, so was probably everybody else. But It was just the way we did things. It's sort of that legacy mindset. But you guys have actually thought, well, we can make this better. And with technology and the advancements that we're seeing in this space, kudos for taking the step in that direction, because it's very easy to get caught in, well, this is the way we've always done things. Clearly, you're not doing that. Yeah. And so how do you, based on your experience and where you hope to go with this, how do you envision the software transforming these traditional legacy ways of working in the lab work, the lab flow, the lab workflows?
Yeah, they are, Nika and Sauce are working on some really, really innovative processes right now that incorporate AI in a very elegant way into the software. And I don't want to say too much. I'm just going to whet your appetite and tell you, really keep an eye on the Proficient Lab, because they are about to blow up the way that we currently think about quality in a clinical setting. So I'm going to put a link to the webpage in our chat so that everybody can look at it and make sure that you stay up on it. Because as this new product rolls out, you're gonna want to evaluate it.
I think that's a great idea. And, getting people excited and thinking about what could be and making the making the process so much more efficient, and thereby accelerating, trials or lab work that can really get our speed to, evolving and transforming healthcare overall. It starts in the lab, right? So I think that's a great way, to get things accelerated. And I think sometimes we forget about that and take it for granted. So this is clearly an area that was ripe for transformation. And again, kudos to you guys for taking the bull by the horns here. Can you talk a little bit about, to the extent that you're comfortable, like the innovative features that your software will offer that, distinguishes you from potentially the old way of doing things, or even other existing lab software solutions?
It looks like Sarah may have had some technical difficulties. So we're just gonna pause for 30 seconds to see if we can get her back on. So just bear with us for a moment.
Well, while we are waiting, I'd just like to, I'll shout out the two highlights I had in between, talking about our upcoming Innovator Summit, December 2nd through the 4th in New York. Again, would love to encourage anyone who's interested to register and attend. I've been attending that event for probably over a decade now, and always learning something new and meeting amazing people who are changing the way I think about this space. So would highly encourage everyone to check it out and join if you can, at least even for a day. It will be well worth your time and effort. And then again, we have our Versally sponsored Women's Health Tech Challenge. The deadline for submissions is end of day tomorrow, 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. So anything that you have that's a potential submission for innovation in women's health related to menopause, which is really the cohort, please check it out and submit.
And looks like we have Sarah back on now to wrap us up. Thanks so much for working through the technical difficulties, Sarah.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, my computer just completely shut down on me.
It's the ghost of the machine today.
It really is.
But I don't know if you caught my last question, but it was really around, can you speak to any of the features that the Proficient Lab software offers that can distinguish it from some of these legacy software systems, or things that might also already be on the market? I'm just curious if you can share any of that.
Yeah, so I mentioned the training capability and being able to port that over. There's a scalability component to that as well. So if you have multiple locations, the Proficient Lab software enables you to take training and distill it to multiple locations and ensure that it is processed and completed in the exact same way that's reproducible and highly documented every single time, so that when your regulating agency comes in to inspect you, there's actually evidence that staff have been trained consistently. So not only is this important for ensuring compliance, but it also really helps you realize great ROI and really drop the training cost and ensure that your operations are operating very consistently, and which allows scalability.
Amazing. Super exciting. And I've been following you for a while, and I'm gonna go back and check it out again because it's really good stuff. And again, I think this story really speaks to someone and a group of people who have refused to do things just the way we've always done them. And there is a better way to do it, because at the end of the day, it will serve global healthcare much better if we can do this better, faster, more efficiently. So amazing work. Congratulations to you all. And before we go, though, are there any other thoughts or anything else you'd like to share about what's happening with Proficient Labs, or even this space in general?
Yeah, I would just, I'm giving you a little bit of a teaser with the AI component. I would just really keep your eyes on the software. The application that we'll be launching is really going to revolutionize, and I can't underscore that enough, how we think about quality, how we think about working with assays in the lab, and really monitoring to ensure that we have the best product possible for our patients. And I'm being a little bit vague on purpose because it's still in development, but having spent over a decade in the industry, this is really truly revolutionary in a way that we don't normally see.
Yeah, and I mean, you glow when you talk about it. So clear. I mean, I don't have the background in that space, but I mean, if anything that can make your life easier in whatever capacity you're working and focusing on, it's amazing. And, again, I just love the fact that you refuse to accept this is the way we've always done things and we can do it better.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. But when you are, when you're thinking about the future, I think you're going to make some transformative changes. So thanks for all you do, and appreciate the time to chat with you, and best wishes and good luck with the future. I'm sure we're going to be seeing a lot more about you guys.
Thank you. Again, very sorry for the tech challenges today. Thank you for bearing with me.
No worries. Have a wonderful, happy Halloween.
You too. Thank you for having me.
You got it. Take care. Bye-bye. Okay, so we are a few minutes ahead of schedule. The next session, and our final session of the day, I'm waiting to see if we have everybody ready to go. I think we're almost there. But our last session of the day is going to be a joint session. We are fortunate to be joined by Nuzi Barkatali, who is the Vice President of Startup Banking, Life Sciences, and Healthcare at Silicon Valley Bank, and a colleague, AJ Fortier, who is the Vice President of Life Science and Healthcare Technology at the Silicon Valley Bank. And we're going to be talking about empowering health equity, insights on venture capital trends, founders' journeys, and investment strategies. Super relevant topic. Before we jump in, though, I would love for Nuzi and AJ to give a little bit more background about themselves. They can do it far better than I can. Nuzi, would you mind starting first, and then we'll go to AJ?
Sure. First of all, I want to say thank you for having me. We're excited to be here. Yes, as mentioned, I work on our healthcare as well as tech here at Silicon Valley Bank. My background is having been an operator at various startups, mostly healthcare startups. I also have a master's of research in healthcare and design with a focus on AI and the ethical implications of AI in healthcare. And my role at the bank, I like to say I do a lot of the fun stuff at the bank. I support founders. We provide a lot of ecosystem connections to our founders and a lot of events that can add value to what they're building and where they're going.
AJ?
Thank you, Amy. Good morning. My name is AJ Fortier. I'm the VP of our medical device and healthcare technology portfolio here at Startup Banking. I partner with Nuzi. Primarily, I focus on the client journey at the bank once you become an SVB client as a dedicated relationship manager for our early stage founders. And in collaboration with Newsy, my main mission and purpose is to do everything I can to increase the probability of success for my clients. And that could mean, products and services. It could mean advice and strategic connections. And it could also mean partnering with Newsy to create more opportunities to connect with key stakeholders within the ecosystem. I've been at the bank for about 4 years, serving every sector of the innovation economy, starting off at enterprise software and then moving over to lead consumer technology in LA before joining the life sciences and healthcare team. And I'm extremely privileged to be here. And thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with everyone today.
Thank you. And so, AJ, I'll ask you to continue with this question. What initiatives does the Silicon Valley Bank have to support founders from underserved communities, and who are building from those lived experiences?
That's a great question, Amy. First of all, I think personally and organizationally, we welcome founders from all walks of life. A founder is a founder, and we want to make sure that we're supporting founders across the board. But specifically for those who are, I guess, coming from underserved communities and who are building based on lived experience, we've actually built out a team internally called Catalyst 2045. And they collaborate with, some of the portfolio managers here in the company to identify these founders who are from underserved communities and provide extra support to ensure that we increase their likelihood of success, primarily because it's such a big opportunity, the problems they're tackling within their communities. And we want to make sure that they have all the resources necessary to be able to build out the value that they intend to create for these communities to ensure that we can increase health equity across the board.
That's awesome, and your focus is so critically important. Really amazing that you've got all that very focused support. Newsy, how do you see the role of venture capital evolving within the digital health and health equity space? And what are investors looking for in these startups from that health equity perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it has been evolving. I think there's definitely an understanding that health equity is important. We need to serve the needs of different communities. We need to make sure that, different communities are getting the care that they deserve. I think, when founders are looking at what they're building and if they're building within the health equity space, they should look at their goals, what are they looking to achieve, and see what investors, how that aligns to what they're building. And not every investor is going to be the right fit. But I think more recently, we've been seeing more types of VC funds that do have a focus on health equity. And some of these probably would have maybe more of an impact focus, or, maybe they're connected to the government in some way. So an example of that is the Acumen Fund, the Acumen organization. I think their website is acumenamerica.org. And there's another one, California Healthcare Foundation. And so both of these, they're both have such a focus on health equity and economic justice within, the areas that they're investing in. And they're looking at founders who are equally building in that space, who equally want to build and scale a company, but have an important mission and impact to focus on. And so I think it's important to see the different types of funds that are coming about and to make sure you're relating to that focus with the VCs that you're talking to.
Absolutely. And I mean, obviously you just shared some key market trends and investment trends that you're seeing in some of these health equity spaces. But so you just published your latest health tech report. Are there other funding and market trends that you're seeing more broadly?
Yeah,
question to
yeah,
either
yeah.
one.
I was going to let AJ go.
Yeah, I'm happy to touch on a few. Well, at a high level, we're still dealing with valuation resets more broadly, and that's across all stages, which is to be expected because of the outlier year in 2021. And now we're coming back down to earth, obviously coupled with some macroeconomic trends that we're all very aware of. However, one of the things that's really encouraging is that we've already exceeded the total investment amount from 2019 within the first 8 months of 2024. So that's a really good indicator. An even better indicator is that 42% of all of those dollars have gone to seed investments, which is great for founders in my portfolio. Obviously, hopefully many founders that are on the call, money is flowing back upstream, back into the seed stage, because there's so much turmoil, I guess, for a lack of a better words, in the later stages, right? So it seems like there's more of a paradigm reset while we're trying to manage the valuation expectations with existing companies that have been funded in the later stages. Investors are looking towards brand new companies who are getting started to start, I guess, delivering capital at the beginning and building those companies based on the new expectations in the current investment environment. And so these are really great indicators that I love to see, specifically working with pre-Series A companies, just because it means that there's more opportunity now coming for early stage companies. It means that new innovations that have caught up now into 2024 that deserve to be funded have a better opportunity to be funded, and hopefully they can have the capital available to them to keep on building and to deliver value to the people that they serve.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that we are seeing more of a focus on investing in value-based care. And I think that really aligns with health equity in terms of making sure we're focusing on outcomes versus just the care that we're delivering. And I think a lot of investors are looking at not only, value-based care companies, but the technology to support the value-based care that is getting delivered and the risk-bearing contracts that, you're kind of figuring out as you go out and market. So I think all of these things are really good signs.
Yeah, and great advisement for the folks listening today. And as we close out, question to either one of you or both, what advice would you give founders building in the space looking to seek investment?
Yeah, I think, when it comes to, again, when it comes to thinking about how you're going to build your company, what type of investment you're taking, it's really important to make sure that you are aligning with the investors that you're seeking funding from, that your mission aligns, that the trajectory of your company aligns, and being really, really strategic about, the people that you're hiring, the people that are on your advisory board, and the people that are investing in your company, because you want to make sure they're going to be, married to you for the next 10 years. They're going to be driving a lot of your decisions, and you want to make sure that those are in alignment. And I think also, especially when you are trying to move the needle within healthcare, I think you have to get creative with both the product and the service that you're delivering, but you have to also get creative with the business model. And I think to really move the needle within healthcare, we need more creative solutions on the business model side as well. And so if you really want to kind of figure out where the incentives can align, figuring out those two things together is really important. And I'll let AJ add to that as well.
Absolutely. I totally agree with everything Newsy said. And, not much more to add there. The only thing that I guess I would close out with is to just emphasize to founders the importance that they play within this ecosystem. Everything that has been built in this ecosystem is built around the founder. And the most valuable asset the founder has is the value they create, the demonstrated value that you create. So my advice would be to continue to find harmony between your product or your service and your customers or users, and to just keep building, keep creating value, and eventually everything else will fall into place.
Well, thank you, Newsy and AJ, so much for joining our session today. Great advisement for our listeners, and look forward to talking with you again. And I will now hand it off to Jerry as we close out our final session of the day.
No, wonderful set of interviews there, Amy, and great to see the SVB team back on the program again. It's been a pleasure working with you guys and getting to understand a lot more about what you're doing to help all the startups in the ecosystem. So really, really fantastic to have you guys on the program. And thank you, Amy, for taking us almost to the finish line of our Digital Health Symposium for this month, as well as 2024. And just to round off, we are going to do a quick giveaway here as well. And very quickly, just to refresh, there have been a number of codes on today's program in order to win a shout out on the HITLAB social channels, a Breakthrough Fellowship membership for the next 12 months, and then a chance to join us at the Digital Health Symposium, Digital Health Summit in December, where you can meet a lot of our fantastic speakers from today. Go to the link that's in the chat that was just posted by Sammy and type in the word pumpkin as our third code word for today to be in with a chance to win one of those 3 giveaways. And as we reach the culmination of today's program and the programming for this year, it's my pleasure to welcome on Dr. Satchit Busri from the Upper East Side Cardiology and Vein Institute, and to quickly round us off by talking about one of the major topics within digital health this year and the last year in particular, around harnessing AI specifically in today's practices, and for Dr. Satchit Busri with a focus around cardiology and vein care, of course. But Dr. Busri, thanks so much for taking the time to join us on the program today. We'd love to hear more about yourself and what you're doing with the Upper East Side Institute.
Hi, Jerry. Good to see you again. Thanks for having me on. So I'd like to talk about where we left off when we last met was embracing digital health. And that was after COVID and really going into how we used virtual cardiac rehab. We also use a lot of digital health tools, which after COVID really became part of our lexicon and really advancing good healthcare, availability to healthcare, access to healthcare. And to circle back on that, we kind of hit another revolution this year, which was artificial intelligence. And you can't really turn the corner without hearing that in every facet of our lives. What I like to discuss a little bit today is how we've incorporated and implemented AI into our practice. We're a small practice on the Upper East Side, but we're very, very productive and busy and really like to embrace technology. And as we continue to embrace that, we try to embrace artificial intelligence starting in the early, probably the second quarter of this year. And the great news with healthcare is that since the adoption of digital health and the digital health revolution, access to and barriers to having accelerated utilization of these methods have become a lot easier. So the main focus that we seen in our practice, and it's something that we're going to see adopt by major healthcare systems within the next year, is the utilization of artificial intelligence in our compliance with our notations, our dictations, our submissions to healthcare insurances to apply proper coding and reimbursement, and to not have any more necessity of auditing and really backlogging of both claims and payments. And in addition to that, the ability to have a longer face-to-face conversation with our patients without worrying about the notations, worrying about will we get paid for this, worrying about whether or not the patient will get charged for this, and allowing those minutes spent with the patient to be with the patient eye to eye. And so in April, we decided to look into various platforms that utilize AI. And the one that we adopted is a platform called Freed.ai.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fantastic. So essentially what it is a scribe, a virtual dictation system on my phone that also has a desktop app platform website. And so what this shows is that basically when I go into the patient's room for a visit, I click record on the app, and it transcribes verbatim our interaction and records everything verbatim. But then it applies AI, and what it does is it develops a succinct history of present illness, a physical exam, and an assessment and plan that is appropriate for the level of care that we provided that day, the time that we spent with the patient, and as a result, creates these wonderful notes. Now, they're not perfect, and we have to understand that this is still still in its nascent stage. But what's great is that as I continue to proofread and incorporate these into my notes, it's starting to learn my vernacular, it's starting to learn my style of noting. And since April, it is adapted. It's definitely adapted to the level of care that I'd like to provide and the level of care I am providing and the way I like to speak and approach patients.
Mm-hmm.
There are some minor quirks still. Physical exam is very hard. Vital signs are very hard. But most importantly, objective findings, such as echocardiogram results, EKG results, even vital signs and physical exam, it still has a way to learn. Outside of that, the subjective history of present illness and the plan that we want to create moving forward is fantastic. It's resulted in very minimal auditing this year. It's resulted in higher reimbursement, and it's resulted in a higher patient satisfaction because we have more of this, and less of typing and worrying about I need to go to the next patient and I have all this backlog that I need to do, and I may not even get paid for it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you've hired some really good technologies that you're already using to improve and streamline the way that you're able to actually engage with the patients and deliver the care that you need to, and have, like you said, important back and forth conversations and interactions like this. Well, just to round us off, Dr. Bourgeois, before we close up, because we are at time, unfortunately. But have you noticed any sort of challenges specifically that you've encountered when integrating some of these tools into your current sort of workflow?
Yeah, I'd say, the two challenges. One is that they're not integrated into your EMR. They're working on it. Obviously, it's a very fast-moving target. But yeah, now we're working with separate applications, and we have to start moving data from one to another, and that could be a little tricky. And the second thing is we can't completely rely on this, right? It's still very nascent. It's still trying to learn while we're trying to learn with it.
Right.
But it is adaptable. But as long as we don't take the human aspect out of our utility of dictation and note submission and bill submission, i.e. proofreading and really putting your own tone to these notes, I think this will adapt, and it kind of becomes your own little colleague that adapts with you, or your own personal scribe that knows what you're going to do next and knows how you want things to be written.
No, that's brilliant. Dr. Bourgeois, thanks so much for coming on the program. We know how busy you are, and I see you probably in the middle of some patients right now, as I can tell from your video. But thanks so much for coming on the program to at least briefly speak with us about how you're sort of harnessing some of the AI tools that are readily available that other physicians could potentially look into using as well. But really appreciate you coming on as always. Hopefully we get to have you back again in 2025. And if you're attending the summit in December, we'll see you then as well.
Great. Thanks for having me, Jerry.
No, thanks so much. Okay, well, I think that's a perfect way to round off our Digital Health Symposium for today, as well as for the rest of the year, and really highlighting the fact of, the different technological tools and support that's out there for the physicians, patients, and innovators that are trying to make sure that healthcare is being improved via technology to the entire 6 or 7 billion or so people on the planet. Without the support of our partners on the screen now from the Merck Global Health Innovation Fund, Medidata IMC, who we just had on the program today, SVB as well, who was also on the program, Kenvue, FFF Enterprises, and Helix VM, one of the major upcoming and emerging technologies that HITLAB is working with, we wouldn't be able to bring you some of the amazing free programming and content that you've seen today, and from the rest of 2024 as well. And we definitely wouldn't be able to bring you any of this content without the amazing HITLAB staff that day in, day out are able to bring you both the content of the programming and the speakers that come to share their insights with the community. So well done, and thank you so much for this year. Rachel, Yamina, Raymond, Pallavi, Melissa, Sammy, Nico, Amy West, of course, who you saw today, and Ansley Bowen, who you don't often see on the program, but is doing a lot of work in the background to make sure that we get all of the content together and to your computer screens and to you in person if you're attending the summit in New York City. And of course, massive thanks to our fearless leader, Stan Kuchnowski, who can't be with us today, but if you are coming to the summit in December, he'll see you then. And of course, thank you to the audience for coming on and being with us today. We are slightly over time. If you are celebrating or observing Diwali or Halloween, please do have a happy and safe one. And we will see everybody hopefully next year in 2025. So it's goodbye from us.